Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for August 21st, 2025. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda today, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated over in that area. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. I'd also like to note, today with the number of speaker request forms and some length of some of the items, we will be enforcing a 3-minute time limit on any speaker request from the public. There'll be a timer up on the screen behind me, and I feel bad in advance, but if you hit 3 minutes, I'm going to interrupt you. Today, items 1 through 6 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the City Council. The City Council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 4, 25 UR 025, Item 5, 25 UR 024, and Item 6, 25 UR 026. The Rapid City Planning Commission action on these 3 items is final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. So are there any items 1 through 6 that staff would like removed for separate consideration?
Items 4 and 5, please.
Okay. Any items 1 through 6, or I guess 1 through 3 or 6 that any commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? And any items 1 through 3 or number 6 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 3 and item 6 in accordance with staff's recommendations.
Motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, and 6 in accordance with the staff stipulations.
All right. Vince made the motion to approve those items with stipulations. Eric Heikus seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4. We do have a few speaker requests on this item. Is there a presentation to be made, or?
Mr. Chair, item number 4 is a major amendment to a conditional use permit to do some improvements at Storybook Island. Why don't we hear what the speakers have to say? If need be, then we will make a presentation. But in case they have questions, maybe we can just answer those specific.
Sounds good. Dana Foreman, if you'd like to come up. And once you get to the microphone, please just identify yourself for our records.
Dana Foreman with DGR Engineering. Thank you for having us and considering this agenda item. This agenda item is really three different things at the Storybook Island Park, and I think staff will have more information for you too. But the 3 things are different activities that the Storybook would like to have going forward. The 3 things are the Smoky Bear structure, which is kind of an elevated structure that's a tower, national park type tower for viewing, similar to Forest Fire Lookout. The second item is a Winnie the Pooh tree house, which is really a 2-story tree house that replaces some Winnie the Pooh items that they have out there right now. And the third item is the Little House on the Prairie Chapel, which replaces an old train set that was removed a few years ago. So just some updates at the park. I'm trying to revitalize a few things out there and have more activities for the kids.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
While the staff report goes through that in detail and there's elevations submitted for all of those aspects, just note that a floodplain development permit will be secured prior to the start of any construction at Storybook Island, since parts of the property are in the 100-year floodplain.
Thank you. John Cass?
Morning, thank you. Board member with Storybook Island. Just wanted to take the opportunity that we've raised quite a bit of funds to be able to put these in place from constituents across the Black Hills region. And the projects are going to be roughly just under $800,000. So it's a nice improvement to the Storybook Island for you to consider, and the monies that have been given to go towards this project. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations on that fundraising effort. Gene Klein?
I'm short. I'm the board president of Storybook Island and have been on the board. This is my second tour. A couple of things I'd like to mention. They outlined the plots. We absolutely have to replace Winnie the Pooh. The tree that it was around had to be partially cut down and is not a safe place for children at all. The new place is we feel, going to be an immense addition to the park. It's in exactly the same place, but with the corrections, both with the soil samples and the readjusting on that. I believe, I'm not going to swear 100%, but I believe we already have made the application and have been granted the 100-year and 500 years. I know that has been put in, and I believe, but I'm not going to swear 100%, but I believe it's already been granted. The other two items are new and will help enhance, as Dana said, the use in the park. It's a lovely park. I would venture probably almost everybody here has been there, but she needs a little tidying up and a little upgrading, maybe a little bit of a facelift, and to keep it happy for kids. So we would ask you to grant the permit and allow us to go ahead.
Thank you much. That's the last speaker request. Input from the commission, staff?
Mr.
Vicky?
Chair, we would just recommend that this be approved with the stipulations noted in the staff report.
Okay.
I'll make-
Oh, Eric Hikas, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any chance of seeing those elevations?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So that would be that schoolhouse, and that the elevations for the schoolhouse. And then that fire tower. And then that would be the Winnie the Pooh tree house. Elevations for that.
Thank you. Lovely.
Anything else from the commission?
I'll make a motion.
Karen?
I was just going to make
Oh, I can run through it if they need.
I don't think so, but Karen?
Right.
Okay.
I had a speaker.
Oh, I'm just going to make a motion.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve this item with the stipulations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right. Karen made the motion to approve with the stipulations in the staff report. Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5. Same thing on this item. We have a couple speaker requests, but if you could give us a slight introduction.
I think we're going to go ahead and make a presentation on this one.
Sounds good.
Good morning, Chair, Planning Commission. Item number 5 before you is a conditional use permit to allow an oversized garage. This is property located at 2711 Skyline Drive. Property is zoned Park Forest District with a future land use of forest conservation. And access to this property is off of Skyline Drive, which is classified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. So what they are proposing to do here is they are proposing to construct a single-family dwelling on this property, which also includes a 2-story attached garage. That attached garage measures approximately 1,528 square feet on each level, so that brings it to a total garage storage area of about 3,056 square feet. That garage will be constructed with 2 double-car garage doors on the main level, which are positioned to be facing the south property line, so not directly facing Skyline Drive. And then there will be 1 garage door on the lower level that will face Skyline Drive. This being an attached garage, it will match the residential character and the building materials of the house itself. Here are some floor plans. This is the bottom floor, so here you've got your living space, garage coming down the side here, and then this is the garage itself with the garage door right here on the lower level, so this is facing Skyline Drive. This is the main level floor plan. And then the garage showing the 2 garage doors on that main level. Those will be southern facing. Here's some elevations that show you a little bit more. So this top one is the front elevation. So this is what you would see from Skyline Drive. This one is the left elevation. So this would be the elevation from the south property line looking at the house. The one on the top here is the right elevation, so from the north property line looking at the house, and then the rear elevation, so this would be what would be overlooking the cliff face off of the back of the property. So ultimately, the reason that they needed this conditional use permit is that in accordance with the code, the cumulative size of a garage cannot exceed 1,500 square feet or 30% of the gross area of the dwelling itself. So the dwelling itself will be quite large, so about 6,358 square feet, meaning that the proposed garage could not exceed 30% of that, which is approximately 1,900 square feet. This proposed 2-story garage does exceed that by about 1,149 square feet. That is why they came forward for the conditional use permit to allow that garage. So here, there's an elevation specifically of the garage, the front and rear. Here is the property looking from Skyline Drive directly at the property. There are some topographical constraints with construction on this property. This property is substantially encumbered by a no-build easement. The applicant has gone through the process of vacating a small portion of that no-build easement on the south side of the property to accommodate a little bit more buildable area on this property. This is, again, a little closer view looking at it from Skyline Drive. This is looking south. So this would be the view looking at the right elevation of the house, so not any of the garage doors visible from this view. This is looking north, so this is where you would see the double-car garage doors that face south. This is Skyline Drive looking south, and Skyline Drive looking north. So ultimately, staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit with the stipulations noted in the staff report, including that upon building permit submittal, those garage doors on the main level need to remain side loading, not directly facing Skyline Drive.
All right. Thank you. The speaker requests we have on this are, first one is from Bob Williams, second one from Glenda Williams. Bob, if you want to come up.
Could you bring up your topography?
I don't know if I have a topo on this one. Oh, there we go. That has to-
Thank you. Normally, this time of the morning, we're walking Skyline Drive and picking up trash. But today, we're here just to point out that there's some significant, we think, water-related problems with where they have the left-hand corner, or the one corner of the garage that faces our house. It's right on a, I don't know if you can bring that back up. There's a topographic map in her presentation. You can? Okay. Okay. No. I just ran out of time.
There you go.
I started my own, Mr.
There you
Williams, so I'll
go.
give you about 15 seconds more.
All right. Well, right now, if you notice on the top corner where the garage will be, there are trees and so forth. We're in favor of them building this garage. What we really would like to make sure they understand is the water that comes from Skyline Drive right down the path that they showed in one of the other photos where they have, they've stopped the water, and that's one of the things that we really appreciate the homeowners that bought this. It also stops some of the trash and so forth that collected on that lot down the road that they cut in without approval, one of the other owners of the land, down to where the footings for the house were. That footing area would fill up with water every time it rained, and it would run rivulets when it comes down. It goes right from the drive down the side of the hill, in through the trees, and off to the other end of their property. Doesn't impact our property, but I suspect the people that live at the west side have a lot of black or red dirt running down that hill. So that is one concern, and the other is the concern that when they dug the foundation for the house that was going to be there, they cut off the front of the slump that sits there. And my wife has a few images that she'd like to show you showing our view that was right from our deck of this site, and also give you a few comments on the things that I forgot to tell you about. So I'm sorry I keep moving around. But I'd rather give her the time than have it taken out of mine. I mean, I wanted to make sure that the people that own the lot, I think that their plan does look good, except for these water issues that they need to be made aware of, and we didn't notice it in any of the comments of the construction. So let Glenda talk if you'll.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
So this will require a building permit, and you'll see that as one of the advisories. As a part of that building permit, in order to secure the foundation permit, they'll have to bring in soils data to determine the design of that foundation, and that goes to the stability of the structure. In addition, as they're securing the footings permit, they'll have to do erosion control, and then, of course, before they're issued a certificate of occupancy, again, erosion needs to be addressed so that the site is graded and seeded, so that the drainage goes where it needs to go and not impact the adjacent property owners. And those are all given for any structure in a residential area that requires a building permit.
Mrs. Williams, if you'd like to address.
Hi, Glenda Williams, and we, like my husband said, we live just north of the house. We're excited to have a neighbor. We've been here since 2011 when we bought our house and moved back to Rapid City. And it's been sold, I think, 4 times. The first owner we talked to after we had a major slump because water coming off of Skyline made our watering system fill up our yard. It broke and filled up our yard, and we had an 8-foot slump. So it kind of took care of our yard. And so what we did is we had to move our E1 pump that pumps the sewage up to Skyline Drive and all the sewer water and everything. We had to move that closer to the house because we were afraid that was the next thing to go because it was tipping. And we had some wells drilled so we could see where our water table was. And if I could use your overhead projection, I can kind of show you some, I think pictures show a lot better what that lot looks like. And we love the location. I think new neighbors are going to love it, too. Stand by. Stand by. Sorry about that. Didn't tell you the visuals here. Okay, and I pulled these out. I had lost a cell phone and lost all my pictures, so I was kind of stretching to get some. That's kind of dark. That's kind of dark, but I kind of point out what you're looking at, that little spot in the middle, that's a cliff. It's a beautiful rock cliff, sandstone, I believe, and that's the front of their property, and their property goes down about 5 lots, I think, or 5 acres, about 5.5 acres, and so they have a very steep part, and we look at that, we see foxes, everything else on that area. We have mountain lions, we have deer. Okay, so that's kind of the view of their lot next to us. This is right after we had our slump, and we decided, talking to an engineering firm, we needed to get some wells to see where our water level was, and I think it's at 30 feet. 28 feet. My husband goes out and measures the water in that. And that's pretty consistent unless we get a big rain, and then it goes up a little bit. But we've had our house evaluated. It didn't harm our foundation, thankfully. So anyway, that was the drilling, and that's what made us do a lot of reconstruction on our lot. This next one shows you where, when we were digging up to get the E1 pump out. And you can see up at the top of that where that has been disturbed. It's been cut. That lot had been cut at this point. No, it hadn't been cut, so it's still, yeah, it's just still smooth, and it's got grass on it. It was, the lot next to them goes into their lot, and it was just a smooth hill. And this last picture, and excuse me for holding a picture of one of my husband's paintings, but it was the best I could do and zoom in. You can see the earth-moving equipment when they were putting a road in, and they had dug a foundation. We found out later, and the people sold the lot because they didn't have a permit to do that. And as soon as that went in, the dirt that's right below that earth moving and up to Skyline, that turned into what my husband said was a lot of runoff mud. I call it waterfalls, and I actually took some films because it was kind of cool. We had waterfalls, muddy-looking waterfalls going down the hill. They put some erosion control in, and then the grass eventually grew back in, which you see now. But anyway, we're not opposed to anything about the plans. We just thought the people need to know that there's some problems with water, and we are in the process right now of redoing our whole landscaping. If it would quit raining, our contractors will show up to do that. But we've been working on this for a few years now, just to remediate our yard because of the water problems. And my husband's worked with French drains on our yard just to keep most of the water out of it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
We've
Thank
hit the
you.
timer.
And thanks for letting us
We really
speak.
appreciate the color to the site, though. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't see any renderings or drawings on the driveway, flat work, parking areas, et cetera. I didn't see that in any of the report or the plans. The reason I ask, how that's going to look is because some of these houses on Skyline have simple driveways, simple parking areas. Some of them have roundabouts, massive parking areas that is a watershed issue. So could the owner kind of briefly describe what your flat work is going to look like as far as, aprons, pans, parking areas in front of the house? How much is that going to impact and affect watershed on that lot and the neighbors?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe the applicant is here today.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Vicki.
when the building permit is submitted, the access point will be reviewed and approved by the city, and our engineering, public works department will work with the property owner to ensure that the location and the grade of that driveway meet minimum specs.
Okay. Is there a limit on square footage on any of these, I guess custom homes in that area? As far as the city specs go, is it kind of up to, interpretation from engineering?
Limit on the size of the...
Square footage of parking and concrete flat work?
No, not in residential. The width of the approach is limited. They have to pave the first 50 feet of any driveway. I would assume in this case they'll pave or concrete all the way up to the garage doors. I don't think a house of this size and cost would have anything gravel or dirt at the end of the construction site. But again, that all has to go through the review of the engineering division.
Right. No, bless it. Okay, thanks.
All right, anything else from the commission on item number 5?
I'll make a motion to approve
All right. Vince made the motion to approve with the stipulation.
with the stipulations laid
Okay.
out by the staff.
I'll second.
And Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve?
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
if I might, we appreciate the neighbors coming in and speaking today. This is some unique terrain, and it's a beautiful area and one that we take great pride in preserving, even though we, the city, nor they, the adjacent property owners, do own this lot, working together as a community to ensure that we are safeguarding new development so that the scenic qualities of this route are maintained are extremely important. So their comments are well received. We'll certainly share them with the applicant. Hopefully they'll get an opportunity to meet their new neighbors as well and have these same discussions. But we will be on site doing inspections through the course of the construction. And it seems like with every new home that goes into areas such as this with these extreme terrains, there's always concern. What is it going to do to those adjacent lots? Whereas when they got their building permit, a neighbor said the same thing about their new lot as well. But this is how we make it work, is just keeping a watchful eye on it and making sure that at the end of the day, we're securing this lot with erosion and sediment control so we don't negatively impact the adjacent properties. Thank you.
Vince?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to concur, and again, I want to thank the neighbors for being here because that's going to be very important, I think, for these new homeowners. And you walk that skyline all the time, so you know. Thank you.
All right, anything else from the commission on item 5? The motion on the floor is to approve with the stipulation. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. That takes us to item number 7.
Right, we're ready to go. Mike Dugan with Finance. This will be the first of 4 presentations this morning. This first request is a application for Amendment 1 to the project plan for the Black Hills Industrial Center. So a quick diagram here. This is the current boundary. There will be nothing with the project plan amendment that changes the boundary. So as you can see, Highway 79 runs straight through the middle of this, and adjacent are Principal Arterials and East Catron and Elkvale Road. Zoning, so this is primarily heavy industrial and light industrial with a little bit of general commercial in there. Major street plan, as you can see, Highway 79 runs straight through the middle. It's a principal arterial. Adjacent is Catron, that's a principal street. And Elkville Road is also adjacent, which is also a principal street. The original purpose of this district, so this district was approved by City Council in May of 2022. Original purpose was to extend and develop a regional economic center for the community and provide expanded infrastructure into the south side of Rapid City. The eligible project costs of this district were approved for just over $78 million. Of that, just under $35 million was financing costs involved with this project. And the project was approved to be completed in 3 phases. So amendment number 1 to the project plan. So there is no additional funding requested. Actually, as you'll see, The request has dropped approximately $6 million from the original approval. Some cost savings were involved. So this is just a reallocation of previously approved funds. So Acer Boulevard, that was originally a part of this project, will be removed. The reason being is the South Dakota Department of Transportation would not allow a traffic signal at the intersection of the proposed Acer Boulevard and Highway 79. I have a diagram here shortly, just north of where this traffic signal is. The city is putting in a traffic signal along Highway 79 into the landfill. The Department of Transportation wouldn't allow those two traffic signals. So what will be proposed, instead of Acer Boulevard, Capacitor Boulevard will go in. The rail lines previously approved in Phase 1 aren't needed in Phase 1 now and will be a part of Phase 2. Then there'll be moving of the costs associated with the Old Folsom Road utility improvements will be moved from Phase 1 to Phase 2 as the developments, the entities going into Phase 1, the water is sufficient for fire protection for the Phase 1 construction. So as previously stated, the request is actually dropped by $6 million over the original approval. So this slide here is how the adopted plan, how this was originally approved. As you can see right here, Acer Boulevard was proposed to be constructed with access off Highway 79. So it was proposed to have a traffic signal right here, as that's not allowed by the Traffic Department of Transportation. As you can see with this proposed amendment, Acer Boulevard will be removed and replaced by Capacitor Boulevard. And that'll take access from 79 off of Old Folsom Road. And then right here would be the city's putting in, that's part of the cost to be reimbursed from this increment, from this development, a traffic signal here to have access into the landfill. So these are the Phase 1 improvements and the reallocations. As you can see, the rail switches and rail lines, they move out of Phase 1 and go into Phase 2. They're not needed with the entities going into Phase 1. Acer Boulevard is removed and replaced with Capacitor Boulevard as the cost of Capacitor. So these costs with the reallocations and removal drop slightly, a couple $100,000 over the original approval for Phase 1. So the construction, so the Phase 1 infrastructure, these are the proposed entities. The applicant is working with numerous entities to be a part of using the Phase 1 infrastructure. These are the proposed Phase 1, the entities that are proposed to be in starting in 2025, finalized in 2026. Then also using this Phase 1 infrastructure entities that are proposed to be a part of the 2028. 2028 would put us out past the 5-year allowment for those construction costs by statute. But these entities can go in afterwards because the Phase 1 infrastructure will meet that requirement of being put in within those 5 years. So what that looks like with those proposed entities, businesses going in using the Phase 1 infrastructure, starting in 2025 with the increment starting to come in 2028. This is proposed to be paid off in 2042, which would be 20 years payoff, which would be allowable under state statute. So Phase 2 and Phase 3, so Phase 3 is not estimated to be put in at this time. It may be put in at a later date. So Phase 2, there is a large industrial user that may become a part of this project. If that does come to fruition and that contract is put in place, this will trigger the Phase 2 improvements to be put in. So one or two things might happen. If that user was to sign up, let's say in a year and a half, that wouldn't probably be enough time to complete those Phase 2 improvements within that 5-year allowable time. So what would happen is probably the Phase 1 would be certified, repayment would start on that, and then the applicant would come back for an overlapping TIF to put in those Phase 2 improvements for that large industrial user. So with the phase two, if that, once that does get put in, that would also trigger moving that booster station would be needed. So that would move from the phase three up into the part of the phase two costs. So what would that look like if that large industrial user was to come in, phase two is triggered to be put in, what would that look like? And so it is a substantial user. So it's estimated that the phase one improvements would now move up from paying off in 2042 to paying off in 2035. That would trigger the phase two improvements. So those are estimated to be paid off in 2038. So having that larger user be a part of this project would substantially speed up the repayment of this project. This is a slide you'll see throughout this morning. This is the active and proposed TIF districts. So currently there are 19 active and approved TIF districts in the city of Rapid City. There are 3 proposed districts that we're going to be speaking about next. I put those at the bottom of this. I wanted to show what would it look like if all of these projects were to go through, approved by Planning Commission today and then City Council in a couple weeks. So the 3 here are the Destination District, the Catalyst District, and the Sunridge Senior Affordable Housing. This shows with those projects going through the city would be at 2.48% of its total valuation. And by statute, we are allowed 10% of the total valuation, so we are well under that. This means that the current valuation of the city of Rapid City sits today, we'd have additional of approximately $750 million of certified base value that we could use towards future TIFs. So of those 19 active TIFs, you can see on your left-hand side, there's 13 economic districts, 1 industrial district, which is the project we're speaking about today, 3 affordable housing projects, this is what they're proposed, and 5 local districts. The applicant is in attendance today, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from the commission? Eric Heikus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just out of curiosity, I remember when this came through the first time, I was really excited about the industrial value add and the agricultural value add at the time. Is that still the case? Is this new industrial partner a data center? Is there anything you want to share there that will enlighten us?
Mr. Chair, if it's allowable to have the applicant speak to that question.
Thank you.
You bet, Mr. Shaffey. We'll put you on the same time limit, though.
Yes, sir. Good morning, members of the commission and Mr. Chairman. My name is Hani Shafi with Dream Design, representing the project. The project has transformed from the beginning till now. It had a technology component that was actually the start of the project, which was a battery plant, and since then they could not secure the funding for the equipment. So that project is not dead, but it's semi-dead. So we proceeded with securing other technology-based industry coming into the area, and we have one that is working with us, that is major one. As a matter of fact, we received purchase agreement from them a couple of days ago, and we're just going through it with the legal departments. And we have another smaller one that is technology-based. There is about 60 acres or so left in the project, and those were intended for value-added ag products if they come in. If they don't, then we'll probably take it as they come. I hope that answered the question.
That's a fine answer, Mr. Shaffey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question for Mike. Could you help me understand when it talks about the off-site water? It says the off-site water is not going to be in phase 1. It'll be in phase 2, but it helps phase 1. Is that exactly, not exactly how you recorded it, but it said off-site water to phase 2 will be sufficient for phase one construction, so I'm not sure. how
There was water improvements to be part of phase one with because that was with different users at the time of this was the original approval of this back in May of 22. With those users changing, there's not enough or not as need of the water for the phase one. So that moves those water improvements that were going to be a part of phase one, move to phase two, because the users now projected to be part of this development, the water supply and flow is sufficient for phase one.
Okay, so you're just saying it's okay the way it is without help. Okay,
Correct.
I understand that. I just couldn't understand the language, I guess, to make sure, how does that work? It's in phase two.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Vince?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm trying to understand the same issue with the water, but are we to understand now that there won't be a data center there? Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand that?
So the users have changed from the original approval as far as at this time.
But I understand that there's an intention to bring a similar type of project to this area. Is that correct?
Correct. I know that the applicant is working on additional users for this project.
Because wasn't this all based on that it was this particular product that was coming to that area?
I believe so, as far as the original project plan and the projections used in that. It was some users that were estimated at that time to be a part of the project. And now, moving forward 3 years later, it is a different set of users. But Mr. Shaffey is still working on bringing these big users into this, which would trigger that phase two developments.
Okay. If I can go back to just one minor issue on that, Folsom Road and 79, when will that light be installed?
That would be within the first 5 years. That would be soon.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Dan.
In regards to the traffic signal, that is actually under design now, and so we anticipate within a year that should be installed, hopefully sooner, but I don't want to overpromise. It should be very soon, though.
All right. Chip with the fire department?
Good morning. The reason for the water, your question is, the battery plant was very large, so the fire flow wasn't there, so that's why the water question is. And just, you guys are mentioning data plants a lot. I just want to give you some education on, because they do use a lot of water, but now there's newer technologies like in Ellendale, North Dakota, they have a data plant. It's all a closed system, and they don't have the high use of water. It actually works better, and it doesn't corrode the system and stuff. So, and there's not any runoff that we have to worry about to be treated. So that would just, there's a lot of interesting things happening with data plans. So I just wanted, to let you guys know that there's other ways to do things, and maybe that answers your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Haven?
Thank you. This TIF depends on, some pretty big users coming in and agreeing to come in. I guess my question would be, as this goes on, and it's been 3 years now, and maybe 2 or 3 more years without that added development, how does that factor into the payback on this TIF?
So I do know, was speaking with the applicant, that there are, for the users that are estimated to go in, the smaller users over the original projected users are kind of in the final process of the contracts to start construction this year and to be finalized in 2026. So those estimates of what's known and what's been working on to come in it shows that it would pay off the phase one improvements, and that's all that would be put in. If no other entities were to be a part of this project at this point in time, all that would be put in is those phase one improvements, which would be the $23 million. So that would not, so phase two would be coming at a later date, phase three would be at a later date. If those bigger entities were to be a part of this development, it would probably be an overlapping TIF that would trigger those phase two and then moving that booster station up, because then water would be a requirement to trigger that booster station. So as it sits today, what the known that are proposed to be part of this project, it would be enough increment generated to pay off those phase one improvements.
Mr.
Can
Chair?
I'm just going to ask a follow-up before you jump in, Daniel, and I believe I know the answer to this. Is the city committed to pay for anything themselves other than the traffic signal on this? Daniel? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, yes, exactly as you described, that if for some reason there is no development at the site or no further development, truly the developer is on the hook for paying back the loan. It's not the city. As Mike was describing, we do believe, given the building permits that are that the developer is working to secure, that the phase one costs as well as a lot of the phase two costs should be able to be covered. But if for some reason the loan cannot, it's going to be Dream Design that's going to be responsible to repay the loan.
Mr. Shaffey, did you have anything you wanted to add to that part of it?
No, I think Daniel did a great job. You know, the city is not, providing any of the funding for this project. As a matter of fact, we're giving the city the money to design the traffic signal, and then we will pay for the construction of that traffic signal at the landfill. And as far as the booster station and the off-site water line, there are off-site improvements already being completed or under construction, currently being completed. There is a 16-inch water main that is being, as a matter of fact, is finished along the old Folsom Road that we just finished. There is an 18-inch sewer main that we just finished also, that extended from Catherine Boulevard to Old Folsom Road, and it is being extended today along Old Folsom Road as a 12-inch, and then another, I think, 12-inch that goes towards Highway 79. I hope that addresses that question.
Definitely. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
you know, it's important to just identify the public improvements that this TIF will bring forward. We've talked about the signalization of the landfill entrance at Old Folsom. That's something that's been needed for years. I think if any of us has gone out there and we've tried to come out and make that left-hand turn with the speed on 79, especially if you're pulling a trailer, it's a risk. In addition, this is an area that is lacking a redundancy in water design, which is limiting other properties from developing. We're hopeful that Hanny does continue to secure more and more industry in this area that will trigger the need for that booster station, because with that booster station being covered with this TIF, it will open up additional development to a significant area, and that's something that's needed today.
All right. Thank you. John Roberts. I'm going to put you on the timer too.
Thank you. Yeah, you better, because this is one of my favorite topics. There's so much misrepresentation out there in the public right now about TIFs, how TIFs are used, how TIFs are paid off, who's paying for it. You know, this is a good example. I expect this TIF to be successful in time. Kind of like, I remember when Hanny brought Buffalo Crossing in, and I thought he was completely crazy for taking down that hill out there. And that TIF, without that TIF, the prior TIF that was on there would have never paid off. That overlapping TIF paid off that first TIF, and then the next TIF that Hanny brought in helped pay off this TIF, and now they're all online to be paid off a little sooner than expected up there, and there's been great development up in that area. And I expect this same thing to happen down on Highway 16. Mike, would you pull up the scheduled TIFs real quick? I just wanted to look at some of the existing TIFs. So if you look at that list of TIFs right there, there's TIF 52, and if you look at that, it was estimated to pay off on May 2nd of 2025. But did not. So that's one off of St. Patrick Street, correct? That's the one that was supposed to pay off this year that didn't. And it did not pay off. So the developer had to make up that balance. The city does not make up any of those balances on those TIFs. And I believe if my history is right, it may be wrong. It has been in a couple of cases. But I think that this is only the second TIF we've ever had that has not paid off in the history of TIFs that we've had in Rapid City. So, you know, we have done very well. You know, I'm going to have some comments coming forward on some of the TIFs coming in. I think that we're making some changes that I'm really not terribly thrilled with. But if you look at this TIF specifically and you dig into this TIF, from the very beginning, there was a very, very detailed project plan on this. And I think that that is very important. I think it's a huge requirement. I think that the citizens of Rapid City should know where every penny is going in these TIFs to a, you know, an extent. I mean, I know that there are times that we have to, you know, we have to push in some of the costs a little differently, but, you know, typically in the past, we have had very, very, very detailed project reports, and I do think that's important. And I want to thank Hanny because I think he is by far the best at bringing in these project reports on TIFs. He's very good at line iteming where everything's going to go to. So anyway, I look forward to this. I expect it to be successful. Unfortunately, the battery plant, which we had
All right, John.
a tremendous amount
I gotta
of.
call you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Eric Hikas.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment proposed, Amendment 1 for the project plan with the stipulations and discussion we've heard today.
Second.
All right, Eric Hikas made the motion to approve amendment number 1 to tax increment district number 86. Vince seconded that motion. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
The second TIF request that is before you is for the Sunridge Senior Affordable Housing. As you remember, we just recently viewed this. The City Council approved the creation of the district July 21st. Planning Commission had denied the, I'm sorry, that's a misprint, denied the project plan on July 10th. So there was a notification error with the next 3, as you've read in these staff reports. This was one of them. So this one will start from the beginning. A new application cover page was submitted and dated. So before you this morning will be a resolution to create the district again and the project plan. So the district boundary has not changed from the original application. The only thing that has changed with this application request is the original interest rate requested was 5%, and the developer was requesting the city finance due to that lower rate that's typical than what you can get on from a financial institution right now. Changing that rate from 5% to 3.5%. The reason being at 5%, it was anticipated this district would not pay in full in the 20 years. Changing that to 3.5% it just gets it in under that 20-year requirement. And so that's with the city financing, which I'll in a future slide here, talk in a little bit more detail. But I'll just go through the original application or the original presentation here quickly for you. This is the district boundary. Once again, the district boundary is not changing. This is the subject site right here to be developed. The current zoning is a mixture. There's some general commercial here in the red, some civic center, public. The site itself is in the medium density residential here in the tannish color. The major street plan, so North Street is a collector street, and that'll run adjacent to the front of the property here. And then North Fifth Street is a principal arterial, runs off to its side. Project details, so this project is, the proposal is 38 apartment units to be constructed in the 300 block of North Street. So it'll be a senior affordable housing. So by definition, that is residents of 55 years of age plus. It'd be housing for income qualifying tenants making 60% or less of AMI with corresponding rent at 30% of the tenant's income. So with those requirements in place, these are requirements to get the type of sources of funding the applicant has been approved for. A one-bedroom would be $955 a month, and a two-bedroom would be $1145 a month. So the components are 34 one-bedroom units, approximately 600 square feet of living space, and 4 two-bedroom units with approximately 775 square feet of living space. And then I know a question has come up, the main entrances will have a foyer and equipped with a security access system for the safety of the residents. So this district is anticipated to be classified as an affordable housing district. It does meet the requirements that are by state statute of the income levels. The parcels within the TIF district, so the assessed valuation of this, all the parcels and the boundaries, just over 15 million, which is a low base valuation. We'll see in an upcoming slide the actual valuation of that lot, and I have some pictures. It's a difficult lot. Is I think $16,100 is the current assessed valuation of that lot. So having this development on that property significantly increased the value of this district. So this project is being structured as a grant. So the grant funds that go towards the project are a little over $2.2 million, with administrative fees, $25,000 to the city, $15,000 to the county, and interest. The requested amount is a little over $3.4 million. I'll discuss this in greater detail, with the Liberty Land or the Destination District TIF, but with the grant, once again, so the financing in place, so this would be the city. Typically it's a financial institution, outside financial institution with the city. Those funds are used in first in the project. The increment generated from the site itself will help boost up that the property taxes. The increment will go back to paying off that development loan. So the need for TIF, to qualify for affordable housing, the classification and the funding sources the applicant has applied and been approved for, the TIF would need to be in place. The reason being, without this TIF funding, it would lose the sources out there, the LIHTC funding, the funding from the state, and they'd have to borrow more from their primary bank from that primary note that they will have in place. So that would raise the rent. So the debt load would raise on this. They'd lose the other sources of funding. So the rents would almost have to double, would take it out of the affordable housing, the classification. So this does qualify as the city's new adopted TIF policy for infill development. It doesn't extend the existing development pattern. It makes use of the existing public infrastructure around it. It is generally just surrounded by existing development and is served by existing fire and ambulance services with standard response time. It's not stretching any of those services. Funding sources, so these are what the TIF, this would be the funding sources. Project total sources of a little over 10.6 million. So they do have some funding sources for the affordable housing, the LIHTC, and then money from the state. So this is a projection. This is with the TIF, if the TIF is approved and in place. So the gross rents would be just under $450,000. So they have budgeted for vacancy, other fees, late fees, pet fees, application fees, their operating expenses. So the income available for debt service after their expenses, a little over $230,000. So the important part here is that mortgage payment. So without the TIF, that mortgage payment is going to increase substantially, that annual debt load. So this gross rents would have to increase substantially to match that debt load, would take it out. So rents would rise, take it out of that classification. So the debt service coverage ratio on this project, if the TIF was to go through, would be 1.25 times. That's the industry average in banking is usually about, some banks are different, but the average is about, you have to cover your debt in order to qualify for permanent financing at 1.25 times. Some are 1.15, some are 1.4, but the kind of the average standard. So the percent of return on this project would be just under 11%. The projected TIF increment, the projected increment income, as I noted, so the assessed value of the site currently is a little over $16,000. So it's got a very low assessed value, so the develop on this would increase the value of that property substantially. So this is the proposed increment coming in with that development. So after that base value is certified by the state, if this was approved by Planning Commission and City Council, I sent all this documentation to the state, they work with the county, so that base value today is frozen. As it sits today, the school district, the city, and the county still receive the income from this, the property tax income from this boundary as it sits today. And the school district will be made whole through a statewide formula with this affordable housing classification. So there is some increment on the existing properties that would be collected. It's just natural appreciation if they do appreciate. So, but the majority of this increment generated would be off the development itself to use towards the repayment of the TIF loan. The amortization, so a couple of components of this. So changing that rate to 3.5% does show that this will pay off within 20 years. I have a future slide, but I'll talk a little bit about it now. So that little over $1 million in interest, that would come to this, if the city was to finance this, that would come as investment income or interest income back to the city. The city would collect that. That can be used for new infrastructure projects throughout the city. It can be used for existing repairs of infrastructure throughout the city. So a component of this is it's going to match the structuring of the Camden Heights project. I'll touch on this thing in the next slide, but this is the anticipated development schedule. So if everything was to go through, the TIF is put in place. They're anticipating to start this November with construction completing a year from there, so November of 26. Start leasing the fall of next year with anticipated occupancy in the first part of 2027. So I'll touch on this last bullet point first. So the structure of this loan would match the Camden Heights project, where that is a city finance project. So loan we'd act as the bank, so we would structure it like a bank would have a corporate guarantee from the entity itself, and then the 4 personal guarantees of the members that are part of that corporate entity would also guarantee this request. And just like the Camden Heights project, there also be a lien position. It'll be a junior lien position, but the city will file a mortgage on this property as additional source of collateral on this. So as we touched about in the original approval process for this district and project plan, a little bit higher TIF subsidy over a couple of other city projects, the Camden Heights project, and then actually the applicant is also the developer for the Sagebrush Flats TIF number 90 that we'll touch on here a little bit later. It is a higher subsidy about that, and I'll touch on that on a slide here next. And then the applicant, once again, has a request the city finance this at a rate of 3.5%. So with that too, so as part of the funding sources for this project, the applicant is required at year 18 or before to refinance all of the LIHTC, everything into their primary debt. So at that time, we're also going to make it a requirement of this TIF note, the city finance note, that at year 18 or before, this has got to be refinanced out, the city paid in whole. And as you can see on this amortization schedule, year 18, there'll be just under $600,000 anticipated left on this note that have to be refinanced out. So just kind of touching more on this, the subsidy. So this is just a recent example. This project was approved by Sioux Falls in 2022. It was a project for 65 single-family homes, and it has that affordable housing classification. So the subsidy on that project was just over $300,000 per home. So this is considerably less than that, so it's not out of line from other projects in the state. So this is actually some pictures of the lot and of this lot. This doesn't give a true, the back side of this lot considerably, there's a steep, it's very difficult to build on. The applicant is confident, has a design in place to accommodate that. Another picture of this lot. This would be looking across the street from the property at Fish Street. This would be looking across the street, looking towards, going towards East Boulevard. This is an anticipated rendering of the project. How it says, you can see the property does have that kind of the drop off from North Street there. So this would be the back side of that property. So as I stated previously, this developer or applicant is also the developer for the approved Sagebrush TIFs 90. That was also structured as a grant, just under 9.5 million. Same structure, the 180 apartment units targeting rents at 6% AMI or lower. Construction is complete on that property and they are now leasing. And these are just some pictures of that recently completed constructed project. And once again, it leads us to our last slide here, the current approved and proposed districts. The applicant is in attendance and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Barring none, I'm just going to say that I was not present for the first time that this went through, so I'm going to make some comments here that I would have made last time, but I apologize if the commission has already kind of gotten past this. But I appreciate, Mike, very much that you made the sure to point out the per unit amount of this. I did the same numbers without the financing costs just to make sure that there weren't any differences in interest rates weren't skewing the numbers. And Sagebrush Flats without financing, $24,750 per unit. Camden Heights without financing, about $29,000. This one without financing, about $58,000. So more than double on both of those. And I won't belabor the point. That's just too much for me. I think this already is receiving a LIHTC subsidy. It's already receiving a subsidy through the state. It's just too highly subsidized for my opinion. So we can go from there. Haven.
Thank you. I appreciate the applicant's efforts here to provide affordable housing, which we really need. I voted against this the first time it was before us, and I'm going to vote against it again. I think it is a very expensive proposition to develop a small lot with the sole purpose apparently to develop a small lot that has not been developed in the past for many reasons. And because of that, I'm going to vote against it.
Karen Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments that you made. That was one of the comments that I had for the small number of units that are there. We're using a lot of dollars to make that property work. I do have some have some other questions though that I'd like to ask. In the project costs, the amount of money that goes to the county, will they still get their $15,000 or whatever that is that we give them?
Oh, that administration.
Yeah, that
administration fee, if it was approved, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's what, and that would come from the bottom line dollars that we're going to put forth with this. The other question I had is the rate of return. Do we have a normal idea of what a good rate of return is? I mean, this is almost 11%. Is that normal?
I would believe that would be probably the average rate of return for a developer to go forward with the project. Mr. Roberts might have. He's probably seen some real estate projects like this.
Karen, would you like
John
to chime in?
Yeah,
John?
he can chime in.
So in the public sector, that would be a rate of return that we would probably go forward with. I would probably question that rate of return because of some of the expenses in projects like this. But we would probably go forward with that. But you have to realize if I could get 3.5% money, I would probably leverage every nickel I could get a hold of right now because nobody ever thought of doing that when it was 3.5% because we just thought it was going to get lower. And since I have the podium, I probably shouldn't be speaking on this, but since I have the podium, I think that one of the things that should be brought forward on this is there's no housing trust trust fund money in this, like there was in Camden Heights, like there was in, which is bringing that cost up. And that cost is being paid by the TIF anyway. That's not tax, you know, I mean, nothing is ever going to get built on this property unless somebody like this builds something on this property. Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you. I just thought that rate of return was high, in my opinion, but that's, I didn't know what the standard was, and I didn't know if the city.
John, I'm sorry. Well, we can go back, but we need you on the mic for a minute.
It's at, right now, with the economy the way it is, where on commercial money you're borrowing 8%, you're only making 2% on 10%. I think you just need to look at the numbers. It seems high because we were in low interest rates forever, but it's no longer, it's not high.
Okay,
Karen?
thanks for that clarification. I think that this is a project that the money that we are using from the city's standpoint, the $2 million that we're bankrolling, I think is to use to try to secure the land and make it work to build. It's not for the houses itself, it's for the infrastructure. And I'm assuming that's correct. I'm not sure how that all plays out, but I know we can't pay for the building itself because it's a place to live. So I am just concerned about the dollars that we're using for this project for a small amount of houses, and it's a worthwhile project because we all want more housing for seniors especially, and that's not something that's come out specifically for seniors. So I appreciate the idea. It's difficult to see how this is going to be a benefit, I guess, with the dollars that's going forward. So that's my comments.
Vince?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, Mike Gant reviewed two of the questions I had last time, and that was the interest rate, and then, of course, it went down from 5 to 3.5, which is, that can happen with interest rates, but it isn't, as John Roberts just pointed out, it isn't a promise. And, you may want to take advantage of it while it's hot. But on the other hand, this is a prime location for the citizens that we're talking about that will provide housing for them. It's centrally located, it's close to downtown. It's something that we're trying to improve the infrastructure of, and we're working on it. There was another TIF that was right there on Main Street, or St. Joe, I'm sorry. We turned it down because it wasn't going to do what this one will do. The other point that Mike brought up was the design of the project, which is there is a steep part of the property on the north side. But we're promised right now that the developer is going to make sure that that's workable. Because if it's not, then the project's not going to work at all. Thank you.
All right, so what we have in front of us with item number 8 is the creation of the district. Item number 9 is the project plan. Just want to point that out to the commission as we, any other comments on the creation of the district?
Mr. Chair.
Mike?
If allowable, the applicant would like to speak briefly about the project.
Please make sure you identify yourself once you're out.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Christian Pritchett with Blue Line Development. Just a couple of points of clarification on the items that were raised in discussion there. One thing that I would like to just discuss about the amount of subsidy going into the project in general, as I'm sure you've all been aware of and paying attention to some of the changes at the federal level, especially in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and how some of those federal resources flow down to states. There has been much more of a push towards a different type of tax credit, and that's what's being allocated here from some other prior projects. So the value of that credit relative to some of the other affordable housing projects that you've seen in the past is roughly about half of, this is a 4% credit as compared to a 9% credit. So that Big Beautiful Bill did push more resources towards that less valuable credit. So the amount of subsidy that we're getting from the state level is actually quite a bit less than past projects, hence the increase at the local level via TIF. So just wanted to point that out, that generally speaking, the overall amount of subsidy coming into these projects is roughly the same. There's just a change in where those resources are coming from. I also wanted to point out, with respect to the percentage of return that's shown here, that 46,000 in cash flow is what hits the very top of the waterfall. But there are some required deductions that happen for asset management, investor fees, that kind of thing before anything gets to us as the developer. So our actual return is quite a bit less than that nearly 11% that's reflected here. Probably half of that cash flow will be depleted before it gets to us for any distributions. And then finally, to the point that Ms. Bowman made about securing the land with respect to the actual resource, the TIF resource, given the slope and kind of the securing of the site, we do have a plan in place for what I would call like ascending stem walls to help secure that site that then acts as the foundation that effectively levels the site. So that's primarily where the TIF resource is going, to those ascending stem walls and kind of the site security components.
Thank you. Just one quick question, just for my clarification. So the LIHTC equity listed of close to 4 million, that is still money that can be directly used for construction
Correct.
to the project.
Correct.
That's the proceeds expected from
Yes, sir.
selling tax credits.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, anything from the commission on this? Item number 8, to create a district. Motions, thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Vince made the motion to approve the resolution to create the tax increment district. Is there a second to that motion? Eric Heikus seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Can we do a roll call, Andrea?
Arwelo? Bailey? Braun?
No.
Bowman? Ginsburg? Heikus? Stock? Vidal?
Aye.
Gallagher? I have 6-3. Motion fails. Thank you for the correct, Gallagher.
All right. Another motion? Or do we need to make a motion on the other side? I think so, right?
You took those separately, you've acted on the district, now you have to act on the plan.
Okay. So for item number 9, a resolution to adopt a project plan for this Sunridge housing project. Is there a motion for that? Karen?
Thank you. I'll make a motion to deny the project plan for this item, because if you don't have the creation, you can't have a project plan, so it's pretty obvious. But anyway, I vote to deny, or make a motion to deny it.
All right, Karen made the motion to deny. Haven seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Haven?
Just as a point, it would seem like this is really a moot application now without the creation of the district, but apparently we do need the motion.
We've noticed these items separately, so we have to go through them as we've put forth that we're going to hear them. All right, any other comments on the motion to deny on item number 9? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Item number 10.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to bring to your attention that items 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all TIF districts and TIF plans, TIF districts at a minimum, TIF plans for just the Rapid City Destination District. You have seen them. City Council has seen them. They have been previously approved. The new item is in relationship to the Catalyst District, known as the Sporting Complex District. Mike will make a full presentation on all of these. Due to a publication error that was done by my office, we humbly apologize that we've had to contact the applicants to let them know that they need to go through this process again. As a part of this, though, we've had an opportunity to receive comments from the public, comments that really show that there is some confusion about what these TIFs might do for public improvements and how they could benefit the community as a whole. And so we're grateful for that. We're going to take a negative and turn it into a positive. So with our today's presentation, and again, when we do take these forward to City Council, we are hopeful to answer a lot of the questions and show that true benefit that the community will receive as a result of this TIF and the Catalyst TIF. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
All right.
As Director Fisher has stated, so these next two presentations, so we've seen the Rapid City Destination District project. Nothing has changed. I did add some additional information. This was based upon, like Director Fisher had stated, we have seen some received some public comment and concerns, and is well noted and well received. And so I just want to address some of those within this presentation. And then with the next presentation, the Catalyst District, you have seen the district presentation, but with this, with the request with that one, we do have the project plan for your review this morning. So with the destination district, so the public benefits for this project are the infrastructure enhancements not paid through existing city funds. There is a great benefit from this project and the Catalyst District project of the public infrastructure that's going into North Rapid City that's needed for these, not only for the developments that we're going to discuss this morning, but future developments. With this, it's anticipated that undeveloped parcels that are within and then outside of these boundaries are going to develop possibly because of this. And with this infrastructure in place, it makes them, it's cost benefit for these currently undeveloped parcels that are not a part of either one of these projects to develop at a later date. So with this district, there will be, and we'll go more in detail, extension of Tisch Boulevard, widening and reconstruction of 143rd north of Seeger Drive, widening and reconstruction of Seeger Drive, and that would be from where North LaCrosse Street ends to where the intersection of the future proposed 143rd and Seeger would be. So another public benefit of this particular project is a sales tax revenue coming into the city off the income of the commercial entertainment zone. So it's anticipated this project would generate an additional $1.8 million in new annual sales tax revenue back to the city. That sales tax revenue is a big component of the income the city takes in. So on an annual basis, the city takes in anywhere from 15 to 20% of property taxes that are generated within the community. So for every dollar that's brought in, the city gets anywhere from 15 to 20%. The county usually gets 20 to 30% of that, and then the school district usually gets 50 to 60%. So the big primary source of the income the city relies on is sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue can be used for existing infrastructure repairs and for future infrastructure projects. So the additional, the byproduct of having a project like Liberty Land USA is the additional sales tax generated from increased spending at existing hotels, restaurants, stores, gas stations, retail throughout the community. So that's anticipating anywhere from being $3.6 million to $7.2 million annually. So we're getting from this project anywhere from 5 to 10 million additional sales tax revenue that wasn't there previously that can be used towards other projects that are needed throughout the community. And so if these TIF districts weren't to come forward, these public infrastructure improvements that are part of these projects would have to be completed. It'd be at a later date, but would have to be completed in time. This is a way to have the increment that's generated from these two projects go to paying towards those public infrastructure improvements to this area of North Rapid City that would have to come at a later date from the CIP fund. So the savings to the CIP fund from using these two districts to pay for that that CIP funds can go towards other infrastructure projects throughout the city. So this will also make Rapid City, because this theme park is going to be open 12 months out of the year, will enhance the tourism part of things. So the tourism window can be, granted on weather. It could be 4 months 1 year, it could be 8 months the next year. This will give the opportunity, because there's a large indoor component to this, to keeping tourism 12 months, so year round, which will help all the other industries, the hotel. That's why the hotels will want to be a part of this with the second hotel bid. Keep some retail components that may close for seasonality could remain open with projects like this and the next project you see with the next district. So this is a slide that we used to see as part of the presentations. I wanted to bring it back just to kind of give a brief explanation. What is tax increment financing? What are the benefits? Why is the city, approving these? So what this means, so if this district was to move forward, so the property value prior to divestment is this slide or this piece right here. So if this was approved today by the Planning Commission in a couple weeks by the City Council, I send all the required information off to the State Department of Revenue. The State Department of Revenue works with the county. They provide a certified base valuation. So as that property out there within that district boundary sits today, they certify that value, that's frozen. What that means is the current value of that property, the school, the city, and the county still receive the property tax income from that as it sits today. So you can see here, this just stays constant. So these two arrows here indicate, so development starts to happen out in there. So the construction of the theme park, the residential housing, the retail that's going to be part of this project starts. So as you can see with that, the property valuation starts to increase. So that property valuation, based on the developer's development over time, that increment, so over that property value, over that certified base valuation is the increment. And that's the income that's used to repay back the development loans that are part of these projects. So as we kind of stated previously, the city does not provide any income or any sources of funding up front. This is the developer funds going in from day one to cause the increase in valuation of that property. The increment generated pays back those development loans that are put in place. If the developer does not generate the income, if the project doesn't go as well, it takes longer than 20 years, the developer on this particular project, the developer is the one on the hook or would lose out on all the money that they had up front. What the city would be responsible if there's not enough increment generated to repay back those public infrastructure improvements, the city would be liable for the cost of that. But as I stated previously, that's public infrastructure. That's there, that's in place, that at some point that would have needed to be put in place in that area of North Rapid City where this infrastructure is needed. So the project details, this has not changed. So there's going to be interactive attractions. There's going to be retail, dining, entertainment uses, lodging and conference facilities, housing and community service retail. There's a large hotel component. It's kind of an anchor tenant to this. So there's the square footage of the estimated project, the parking spots. So with the parking, if this was to go through in the Catalyst District, was to be approved, it's proposed that the sports complex, which will be located right next to the Liberty Land project, would share parking to cut down on the costs associated with that. So the commercial entertainment zone, I'll show you a diagram. The developed portion of that is going to be just over 38 acres. So there still is an additional 35 acres available on this for future expansion. That's not in the estimation as far as repayment. only the developed acres is. So we're missing approximately half of the development that could be in here. So if that is developed, that'll also be captured in this, and that'll speed up the repayment. So there's also a section that I'll show you in the future slides, the southeastern portion of this district boundary that's also undeveloped and owned by the applicant that is reserved for future expansion. Once again, that's not included as developed. We're just, only thing included in the pro forma is what we know today. So this TIF is projected to be classified as economic development TIF, which will not be made up by the residents. It'll be made up by a statewide formula. The TIF request is just over $125 million. That has not changed from the original application. The financing cost, that is including the city's portion, the city is receiving the interest income as well as far as the public improvements made. And then this will have the city administration fee and the county administration fee. Discretionary costs and grants of just over $46 million. Those, and I will stress a few times, those, once again, that is upfront money by the developer. That is not upfront money by the city. These costs are regulated by state statute, what they can go to. I'll hit on that in a future slide. These are heavily monitored by city. Invoices will be collected. We do review these, and if there is not TIF eligible items that are received in the envelopes, they don't get paid. So these are heavily tracked, they are heavily monitored. There's site inspections, and there is, we will collect invoices on these. And then I'll show you, I think later on the next slide, the costs are dictated by the state what these funds can be spent on. And so real property assembly costs and then the contingency. I do want to note, as pointed out to me yesterday, so on the project plan, if this does move forward today to the city council, the capital costs and the contingency in the project plan is a little over $17 million. That includes the capital cost for the public infrastructure and the contingency number. I just failed in the project plan in that diagram box to also note, because when you add up all those public infrastructure costs, that's where you get the 14 million, but a little over 17 million is notated in that box. That does include the contingency, and I will make that change if this is approved going forward to council. So this is the South Dakota codified law. This is section 11.9-15, items that can be included in project costs. So item 1, the capital costs, which is the actual cost of construction of public roofs improvements. So we have that line item. The financing costs, item 2, we have that line item. Those are TIF eligible for reimbursement. Item 3, the real property assembly costs, land purchase within the TIF boundary, if it's not already owned by the entity, can be included in your project plan TIF eligible costs. Your professional services, which are architectural, planning, engineering, legal advice, and services, that's all TIF eligible and a part of the professional services that they can use part of that grant money for. And once again, invoices are collected on that. It can't be anything that this district is approved, the project plan's approved. It can't be an expense from 6 months ago. It has to be after the TIF is approved or the TIF eligible expenses on any of these. So, the administrative costs, number 5 there, that's the city administration fee and the county administration fee. That's all TIF eligible. Relocation costs, organizational costs. In the last item, number 8, payments and grants made. So at the discretion of the governing body that are found to be necessary and convenient to the creation of the district, the implementation of project plans, or to stimulate and develop the general economic welfare and prosperity of the state, no payment. So grants are TIF eligible by discretion of the governing body, but once again, heavily monitor and track to make sure they fit into these TIF eligible expenses. And no funds can be used, as we discussed previously on the Sunridge development. TIF funds cannot be used for residential, for the vertical construction of residential housing. So this is the boundary. The boundary has not changed with the primary of what we know. The development will occur on these properties. I'll go more into detail in a future slide. This section of this property will be the Liberty Land project. So this leaves this half over here for future development. Applicant does own land in this portion of the boundary that can be used for future development. Here outside of the TIF boundary is where the proposed sports district would be located. or sports complex. Major street plan, so below the district runs East Mall Drive, which is a principal street. Seeger Drive, which improvements will be made to from North La Crosse to this intersection here, is a minor arterial. So the extension of Tisch Boulevard, part of the applicant's original application, so this residential part here, as you can see, North La Crosse Street dead ends at Seeger, the intersection of Seeger Drive. So when this is platted and the residential developments begin, it would be a requirement that this section of North La Crosse Street is to be put in. So that was a part of the original application. Staff had met and thought it would be more prudent to where Tisch Boulevard currently dead ends, to extend that using the increment funds to Seeger Drive as an access point from East North Street that turns into Tisch Boulevard, dead ends just past the fire department. That would be a better connection to have that would service both the sports complex project and an access point to the Liberty Land project and to the residential components of that. So these are the list of the project costs. So the city responsibility would be that extension of Tisch Boulevard, a downstream sanitary sewer connection. The utilities are involved in this project. The widening of 143rd north of Seeger Drive and storm sewer. And then the widening of that section between where North La Crosse Street ends and the intersection of Seeger and with the future 143rd that's proposed, widening of that. The capital costs required by the developer to put in the grant portion, the contingency, which is added to the capital costs in the project plan, and then the administration fees, so a total of just over $125 million. That has not changed from the original request. So once again, the city responsibility, so the city would be responsible or put these in, but we'd also be receiving a proportionate share of those expenses at just over 13% of the collected increment funds that would go towards repayment of putting those in. So once a benefit to this project, these needed public infrastructure improvements that are needed for this section of this area of North Rapid City would be put in using the increment of the development. So, and then the trade-off of having Tisch Boulevard in to extension and using the increment from this, the city would be required to put in that North La Crosse Street section, cross sheet. So if there's further development in this, we could come back with an amendment to add more funds to put that platted portion of North La Crosse Street in, or it would have to come from another funding source such as CIP funds. So the commercial and entertainment zone, those would be responsible of the applicant. Once again, the large portion is that grant, which is heavily monitored. That's developer funds upfront. They control their own destiny on that portion. If it doesn't go as planned, the developer is out those funds, not the city. So this is just an aerial view of this plan. So this is Tisch Boulevard. This ends. Here's the fire department right here. So this would be put in this section of Tisch Boulevard. This piece of North 43rd is north of Seeger is proposed to be widened. This would be the section of Seeger Drive that would be widened from 3 to 5 lanes. This would be the residential, the resort village, which would be a mixture of apartment complexes, vacation home type things, or timeshares, and then some retail. And then down here would be the Liberty Land project. This piece highlighted here, which is the sanitary sewer line in green. This piece is the section between East Mall Drive and Seeger Drive that would go in of 143rd. That would be part of the Catalyst District that you'll review next. So this just shows kind of how the projects work together with the infrastructure components that are needed, because it is a heavy load for one district to pick up all these public infrastructures requirements that are needed. And also a part of the Catalyst District, a traffic signal is needed at the intersection of Seeger and 143rd, and a traffic signal at East Mall Drive and 143rd. Here's just up close. So a share of those grant funds that will be put in, this is the water main, a large component of those funds we put towards this water main, and then also the sanitary sewer that comes in off that proposed 143rd will come in. So that will be a large share of those funds. And once again, those improvements are monitored, invoices will be collected. So this slide is a new slide from the original presentation. This puts both districts together, the Catalyst District, the Destination District, into one slide using the boundary of the Destination District that we're reviewing currently. So this notes the Liberty Land where they could, the current portion they are developed, the future expansion, the residential, the resort village, proposed sports complex location. And a big component we'll talk about in the next presentation is this piece where the sports complex is owned by the applicant. They're allowing the city to use this, but the benefit also that the city gets is the additional development of businesses that could, hotels, restaurants, whatever, retail, that could go on along in the southern portion of the sports complex parcel can be used towards the repayment. So this just shows all of those infrastructure components, how these two districts work together. Once again, Tisch Boulevard, 143rd, the traffic signals, the improvements to Seeger Drive, 143rd north of Seeger Drive. So this just shows how these two projects work together with the different public infrastructure components that are proposed in each. This is just how the districts look. So you can kind of see they don't overlap. They run adjacent to each other on the breakout slide, once again showing those improvements. There is another large component of public infrastructure that we'll discuss in the next presentation that's in this cutout here. But this just shows how once again, this is the sports district parcel here, how Liberty Land just kind of wraps around. There's no overlapping districts. A component of this is residential development. It's approximately 130 acres, so it will be a mixture of single-family homes, multifamily homes, timeshares is proposed, and then retail components. The idea is the theme matches the theme park. So the idea is you leave the theme park, you go into the resort village, residential portions, and you feel like you didn't leave. The components the themes will match. The TIF boundary, the anticipated base value of this project is just over $8 million. Once again, if that's the value certified by the state, that's frozen. The city, the school, and the county still receive that base value as the property sits today, and has sat for a number of years, currently undeveloped. The TIF boundary is estimated a base value, or estimated value of just over $585 million at year 20. The last bullet point, just kind of the fact that the developer is creating their own destiny. The undeveloped parcels, the construction that'll be a part of this district, the base value or the assessed value is just over $306,000 undeveloped as it sits today. So that's a substantial increase. That increment generated goes towards paying back all the components of this project plan. So the need for TIF, as I stated earlier, there's a large component of public infrastructure that's just not available in this part of North Rapid City. It's a big lift, so that's why a part of the two districts, how they work together to put in those pieces of public infrastructure, not only for the proposed projects we're hearing today, but also future undevelopment. There's this area of North Rapids not largely developed. These infrastructure pieces created with these districts will go a long way towards future development, which will be more sales tax and property tax revenue, depending on what those developments are for Rapid City. So the sources and uses, the total project costs that are associated with this are just over $171 million. Once again, the TIF request is the $125 million. So this is the components of putting in everything that's needed as part of this project plan. Pro forma. So this is how the land sits today. This last piece here, as I noted last time I presented this parcel ID 818, that's actually the fire department. That doesn't have a value. That's not assessed. So that's how this land value currently today gets to that $8 million number. But this as development occurs, so the part of the development, 27, 28, 29, and 30, as the development as it occurs, the increment's going to increase with that. Then in 2031, the majority of the improvements are done to this district within these district boundaries. And so the applicant has anticipated what you see here in 2031 and then running down the slides out to year 20 of the TIF. It's just a 3% increase in value over those years after the major development is put in. This is the projected tax increment income. As you can see, this will increase with development. Once again, if it doesn't match the increment generated, doesn't match this, the developer is on the hook for those, not the city. The city is just responsible for the public infrastructure. The net impact on taxing entities, I know this is an important part for the community and absolutely is a big question. So I just want to address that. So the school district is made whole by a statewide formula. So as you can see, the increment generated, so the school district is benefiting greatly from this development as the income over the years is coming in. The city doesn't provide any direct funding to the school district. As I stated previously, they collect anywhere on the year, and it depends on the mill levy. 50 to 60% of property taxes generated go towards the school district. So they are the large driver for collecting those. City does receive some, but it's a smaller portion, 15 to 20%. So although the city and county do receive that frozen value of those property taxes coming in, the city and county does have to wait until this district is dissolved before the increment generated on this goes back to the property taxes to the county and to the city. But with the understanding, these properties have sat a large share undeveloped. There's very little, as you can see, very little property tax generated. So with the understanding that the future years are what's frozen today, that in later years, the city and county will benefit substantially. This is just on the property tax side. This isn't even including what the city is going to benefit on the sales tax side. Amortization schedule, this is just what the components that are known today. This will take the full 20 years. That's not including the second half of the Liberty Land parcel that could be developed or that southeastern portion. If those are developed in later years, that increment will be captured and repay back the district at a quicker rate. This is the certification. This is in the project plan. This is also going to be part of the developer agreement if this does move forward and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council. Certification, once again, all of the funds that are spent in towards this project are heavily monitored. The invoices are collected. There's inspections that are done. And all these invoices are gone through to make sure that they are TIF eligible, spent at the correct timing, and are tied to this project. Anything that doesn't have, that was an invoice, if it was provided, that was from an expense 6 months ago, that's thrown out, that's not TIF eligible. Anything with outside the district boundary for whatever reason, that's thrown out, that is not TIF eligible. But these are heavily monitored, invoices collected, and they are certified before any funds are released. But these are the requirements that need to be met by the applicant in order for those funds to start being released and the repayment to start. So this is, I'll just kind of wrap up quickly here. So this is 143rd. This is where the extension would take place, looking out on where Liberty Land would be. This is standing on 143rd where the extension would come through. So on your left would be Liberty Land, on your right would be the proposed sports complex. This is where Titch Boulevard, you can see where those vehicles are. That's where it ends, the fire department onto your left. This would be the extension that we would put through. And this is standing where north of Cross Street, just past Seeger, dead end. So this just kind of looks at where Liberty Land Sports Complex, the residential development, all of the public infrastructure components would be put in place. As you can see here, this is cow land, cow pasture, and it has been for quite some time. Just some artist renderings put together of the proposed project. Development schedule, so it's anticipated could possibly start moving dirt if this was to be approved this fall, but this would be the schedule to kind of have all of the major components in place from 2028 to 2030. So an important part of this is the economic impact. So this is the 2024 data. This was provided by Visit Rapid City. So tourism today. Or in 2024, this is the amount of visitor spending that came into the community. The amount of the labor income that was generated off of tourism. The amount of jobs that was tourism related in Rapid City. And this is kind of an interesting fact to me, but the 53.7 million of state and local taxes off of tourism is the equivalent of being able to pay the average salaries of more than 1,000 public school teachers in Rapid City. This project, as we stated before, is going to generate additional tax income revenue, not only to the city, but this is also going to be a big benefit of this revenue because a portion of that does go to the state as well. So this benefits Rapid locally, and it also benefits the state as a whole. This is the Rapid City visitor spending from 2020. As you can see, the COVID years, there was actually still quite a bit of tourism in Rapid City, but it's only grown, and this project will projected to greatly enhance that. But this is all the components: the food and beverage, lodging, retail, transportation, recreation, entertainment. Visitor volume. So it's been pretty steady, about 4 million visitors. It's not known if they're passing through Rapid City, going to Hill City, Keystone, Custer State Park. So this project is projected that maybe somebody, a family, or people coming from outside the community coming through will maybe get them to stay in Rapid a day or two, which will help not only sales tax revenue or the park itself, all the industries that are tied that receive benefit from that, the hotel, the retail, gas stations, dining, will also benefit off this project. So I just want to give a brief history. This is 2024 data provided by the Department of Revenue, just straight from their report they do annually on their website. So since 1978, there's been a total of 487 TIF districts created. As of 2024, there was 261 active TIF districts throughout the state. And this is a slide that shows how many were approved statewide in their classifications. In 2024, of those 261, the city of Rapid City, and the county does have 3, I believe, but as of 2024, Rapid City was 16 of those. These are the top 10 counties that have the total number of TIFs. So you can see Minnehaha, and then Davison, Brown, Kyneton, and then Pennington right here, and that does include the county as well. That does have a handful of TIFs itself. So this is 2024 active, and I highlighted the communities. This is cities and counties throughout the state. So there's 75 cities or counties throughout the state that have at least one active TIF district as of 2024. I highlighted the ones that have more than 10, so double digits. So Aberdeen with 26, Rapid City, we had 16 in 2024. Watertown was about the same, Mitchell a little bit more, Sturgis, Sioux Falls about the same as Rapid, and then Yankton. This is an interesting slide, the asset value. So this is how much these TIF districts were assessed in 2024, which may or may not happen, these valuations without the use of TIF. And this slide just shows here of those active TIFs, a large share of those are classified as economic, like the proposed one in front of you today. And these are just some projects that are kind of similar throughout the state. So this district was set up in Clark County. This was to drive, economic for a new dairy and a cheese plant. This one was done the city of Chamberlain. This was for a retail project to put in a commercial retail project. Hamlin County, another expansion of a cheese plant, and infrastructure needed. So this was the infrastructure needed, like this project, and then it would be economic as far as new jobs for that area. A beef packing plant in Brown County. This was in the city of T. This was for an indoor activity center.
Hey, Mike, we need to do a motion to extend past 9 o'clock.
Motion to approve the meeting past 9 o'clock.
All right. Vince made the motion to extend the meeting past 9 o'clock. Eric Heikus seconded that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you. And then I'm almost done with this presentation. The last one here is the City of Spearfish. This was to put in streets, water, sewer systems, and a new golf course. Once again, our slides, I do want to touch briefly, that I wanted to previously, but so this does include the Senior Affordable Housing District that was denied, but the assessed valuations of these properties, and this does include, and I just carried over what the anticipated valuation is for these three in bold, but just the increase in value of these districts has been over the years to where they sit as of they were last certified in 2024. You have my glasses, I'm sorry, I can't read that. It's just over 500 million in increased property tax that have been with the creation of these districts. So with that, applicant is in attendance, and I will stand for any questions.
All right, we have several speaker request forms. I'm going to go to those now. Some of these list a group of items, 10 through 13. I'm going to call you up if it starts with a 10. If you would rather speak to 12 and 13, please just say so, and I'll call you back up. But D'Amico Rodriguez.
12 and 13.
Okay. Joel Brannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilman Roberts, who's not here, and Commission. I appreciate your time. My name's Joel Brannon. I'm the applicant for Liberty Land, and I'm just here to answer any questions or give any clarification if necessary. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Tanchi Weaver.
Well, I'm one of the ones that went 10 through 13. These projects are very interdependent, and I think it's important that you understand the nature of the objections that have been raised in City Council. A lot of it has to do with the culture of the city. Many of the people who came forward to this microphone were residents that live in the general vicinity of these projects. They object to it, to the Liberty Land plus the catalyst, but mostly to Liberty Land because they had never been asked, and the community has not been asked if we support this project, because it will change the culture of our city. There are a lot of concerns about, maybe the attitude in our town is that these are going to be too big to fail. But we've seen failures happen before. We're wondering, where are the people going to come from to work in these establishments? Is this something that is actually viable in our part of the country? And, should we be relying so heavily on tourism? There are a lot of questions that have come up. And, we are not saying that people shouldn't develop their land as they want, but again, these TIFs are huge, and when we get to, do you want me to talk about 12 and 13 at this point, or do you want me to wait on that part?
Welcome to, if you'd like to continue.
Do I get double time?
3 minutes.
Okay. Well, it appears to be the catalyst has really morphed into something greater. I mean, when you look at it on the map, it looks like an Illinois voting district. It's everywhere. And the issue is, for me, the fact that the city is financing a lot of this. And, we had a great presentation on TIFs and their background and history, but in 2016, there's a little detail that isn't talked about, and that is that costs can overrun up to 35% before these valuations are redone. That's a detail that I think needs a little scrutiny. But I think this is not the last time we're probably going to talk about this, because I have a sense that these things are going to move forward. But I think that it was a bait and switch on Catalyst. And that's a bad look. There are a lot of ambiguities in that TIF, especially the mention of the significant industrial client. Let's name these people if we know who they are. I'm just trying to speak for a lot of people
I
that
appreciate
can't be
that,
here
Mrs.
this
Weaver.
morning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 10 is the resolution to create a tax increment financing district for the Rapid City Destination District. Comments from the commission on that? Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is an exciting project to go forward. It is large, but it encompasses so much more. I mean, the idea that we can extend all our infrastructure north, and you've got the new Black Hills Energy complex that's going in right next to it. It just seems like that whole area north of the interstate is going to just boom. And we've got not a lot of places to grow in this city. You can't go west too much, but you can go north, you can go south, you can go east. And I think this is going to make a huge difference. The idea that it starts out at being worth $5 million today, and it's going to be worth, what was it, 285 million, something. I forget what the number was. More than that, 300. It's going to 500 something, I think it was. Yeah, and I think that right there will make a difference, because we'll get all that tax revenue coming in the future, and the ability to make this city add, more money to fix roads and anything, those kinds of things. It's going to be important. So I think this is a wonderful project, and I hope it goes forward. And I know the people that are behind it, they're willing to put their money there. They're willing to put their land available to help all this. And I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful place. So I support this.
All right, Haven Stuck?
Thank you. How dependent is this TIF on the development of Liberty Land, and what assurances do you have that that development will take place?
So as far as the components of the Liberty Land project and then the residential, so they do have an individual, I believe he's based out of Chicago, that has been traveling not only across the country to get these major anchors into place. I know they're close on some. They are waiting on the TIF. These major anchors are not willing to fully commit unless they know that this TIF is in place. But there is an individual out there marketing across the country. And not only that, he does come to Rapid City as well. This is also being located or marketed to local retail, to local developers that maybe want to help, construct the residential component. So there are going to be a large share of local businesses a part of this project and national.
Daniel?
Mr. Chair, yeah. This project is really entirely based off of Liberty Land, and so there is a portion that the city would construct that would include some roads. It is a very small portion compared to the entire project. The city would not proceed with any of that infrastructure unless Liberty Land proceeds. But this project really is for the infrastructure and the costs associated with Liberty Land. And I think Director Fisher would like to add more.
I think going more specifically to your question, Haven, where you say Liberty Land, I think you were really maybe asking more about the amusement park. That's great, because I think that's something that needs to be said loud and clear. When we say Liberty Land, we are talking about something much bigger than just an amusement park. It's a portion of it. But when we look at the housing component, and there's a significant amount of housing. There's a large convention center, there's a 5-star hotel, we've got multiple restaurant, retail, a large theater that's coming, and intermixed throughout a portion of it will be an amusement park. And I even appreciate some of the comments that Tanshi said today. I have a lot of respect for her. And she talked about changing the culture of Rapid City. You had Mel McGowan at your planning commission meeting the first time that was brought before you, and he talked about the storyboards that he went out and secured throughout our community and throughout the surrounding area to ensure that the atmosphere of what gets created throughout this entire project embraces who we are today, giving acknowledgement that our Native American culture is important and needs to be integrated into all that we do, that we are a military community and Ellsworth Air Force Base needs to be celebrated as a part of this. And without all the railroads that were brought into our area, we would not have the enterprise that we have today. So I think that while it will enhance our culture, I don't think the intent is to change the culture.
Nathan?
And I appreciate Mr. Brannon coming up and identifying himself as representing the applicant. That gives me some idea of who Liberty Land LLC is. And I don't know whether there's any interest in disclosing more about who is behind Liberty Land LLC.
Is that a question you'd pose to Mr. Brannon or anyone else?
Either.
I think that's,
either one, Mr. Brannon. That would.
It's not Russia, so if you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
Well, thank you for the question. It's a good question, and I can't say that I haven't been asked this question many times. I'm the applicant. I'm the one responsible for the application for Liberty Land. However, there is the Lean family is behind this project. They're a large part of the Catalyst Capital that has initiated this project up to this point. But as we move forward, there will be other developers that will be participating in this, and I'm not at liberty at this point to disclose that. But thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for letting us know that, and I guess I kind of assumed that was the case. So thank you.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, any project this big and this ambitious and with this kind of price tag is going to have pros and cons. I do have a question about the residential component of it. It's pretty sizable. I wasn't here for the first go round of this. Can anybody walk us through how that's going to work, how it's going to look? Is this like, traditional open market, lots go up for sale, or how is that residential going to function in our, our market and our town as far as, size? We talking single family homes, or has that been plotted out yet?
So, Mr. Chair, we might see if John Van Beek can maybe go through some of the detail on it. But overall, it will be a range of housing types from high-end to market rate housing. Our goal is that the more market rate housing we do get out there, those of us that are in starter homes, our older homes, that want to move up, that are competing with getting into those market rate homes, the more availability we have, we can move into them, and then our starter home can become available for another starter home family. There will be some resort-type housing components, whether that be in the form of what we would know as a vacation home or condominium, but it'll be a realm of things to capture the different audiences. There's anticipation in their project plan that employees that work within this area would live within this area as well. John, could you share a little bit about maybe some of the phasing, what comes first, second, and third?
And once you're up, identify yourself as always.
Certainly. John Van Beek, Avid 4 Engineering, and I think Vicki did a good job of explaining the mix of residential. The zoning effort that went through a few years back really allowed flexibility, not only just in the residential areas, but through the whole development. As you go from Seeger and 143rd and that intersection, let's just say that northwest quadrant, that 30-acre portion that was identified as the resort village in Mike's presentation would be a mixed-use type residential and retail development. So higher density, more apartment type development that would transition to single-family for sale as you go farther to the north. So I think the intent is maybe the smaller lots, maybe even some townhome type development that would then transition to larger lots on the northern part of the residential component. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the resort village is the intent, a mix of rentals versus home ownership? Or is it-
That certainly is how the zoning document was set up a few years back, was to allow that flexibility. I think we certainly don't want to restrict ourselves from being able to use the rental components. But the numbers that are in the projections have about that 30 acres of the mixed use and then single family for sale outside of that.
Gotcha. I think, housing's a big part of this, and it's pretty important for the city, so I think that gets kind of overlooked in these discussions. I do have another follow-up. The Liberty Land, future growth, that parcel to the east, let's say that doesn't go. Let's say that this is an ambitious project. If that does not get developed in time or at, a good pace, how much of a burden would that be on, repayment and just the responsibility of the overall package?
Would you like me to address that?
It's worst case scenario, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious.
Mr. Chair, the repayment only anticipates the what's included in the phase 1 of the Liberty Land, so it does not include the extension of Liberty Land to the west or to the southeast portion.
Okay.
And so if those are developed, the repayment would be faster.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Eric Hikas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Has anyone seen Fiddler on the Roof? And part of the play, there's a character that's constantly kind of weighing the pros and cons of the decisions made during the course of the acts. I'm a little less enamored with this one for some reasons I've been hearing in the community. I think this is a wonderful project. I'm trying to be intuitive, I guess, on this one. I do respect the comments that Tanchi has made. Tanchi and I are not always on the same page, but I do appreciate your tact. I see some concerns with this in terms of the infrastructure. I'm also wondering about the cultural aspect of it. I am very pro-development, and I believe right now is a pivotal time in our community. We're trying to build a beautiful city. So I've softened my fervor for this one a little bit just because of what I've been hearing. So, but I'm still Switzerland on it, and I'm listening very, very carefully to this discussion and also the comments made by my fellow commissioners. Thank you.
All right, Vince?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, because Kelly brought up a question that I had. I just want to make sure that property that he was talking about for the homes and the resales are possible. That is the southeast quadrant or a section of that property. Am I correct?
North.
Well,
Let's get a map.
But he also mentioned something about that south. Yeah, let's get the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your question is the balance
Right.
down this southeastern portion?
Is that what the question was about? Because that's what I was understanding.
So,
Because that's what Dan was saying. Yeah, he pointed that portion out.
so yep, this is not included. I think just the natural appreciation of the undeveloped lands that sits today is included in that pro forma, but no development.
But Kelly's question was regarding future use for home sales and for rentals.
As far as what that could be developed into.
Right, correct.
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
So there is a zoning document in place that you approved as well as the city council that created a Rapid City zoning district. We created it just for this.
Okay.
And so that area was originally identified as an RV resort. We would, if future development comes into that area, we would need to amend that plan if needed to allow residential. Anything allowed in general commercial would be permitted without doing any amendment to that zoning document.
Okay. And just to be clear, I'm a sailor. I did it for 20 years. One of the things that happens when you get on board that ship, The captain controls everything, and you do as you're told until Liberty Call, when you can leave the ship. So as far as a military member, this project means a lot to us. When we get stationed somewhere, we don't have a choice. We're told to go there. It doesn't change our culture, especially the way Vicki just provided the answers that we've heard recently of our culture. I don't think it's going to change it. I think it's going to enhance it. We can't force anybody to use the Liberty Land or to go to Liberty Land to enjoy it. But on the other hand, I can tell you that everywhere I went, I had family members who would have loved to have come and visit me. So it isn't just where I was stationed. It was all those other people I can bring to the community and show them what a great place I live, what a great place where I work. So I think there's a lot of potential, just as Karen pointed out, for this project. Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add one thing to my former comments that I had. With the sports complex right adjacent to Liberty Land, the people that come in for that sports complex, and if that goes forward, we'll have lots of people going from all over to come to different events out there. And once the event is over, they have the opportunity to go over to Liberty Land to eat something there for the restaurants. They can look around. I mean, it ties together so well that I just think it's going to be a wonderful place for not just tourists, but for us who live here, to go out there and enjoy. And they could have a concert there. There's so many things that could happen in that area. And I just think it's going to be something that down the road, we're all going to be so thankful that was there. It's just like a new, sort of like when the Civic Center came in. Who would have thought we'd ever have a Civic Center of the size that it is, years and years ago? And what changes it's made over the life of people who live here and people who come in here. So it makes a difference. And I just think this is going to go forward with a...
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
I think Mike did land upon this in his presentation, and something that we've done a lot of research on is the amount of sales tax revenue that uses like this promote within a community. And historically shown in other communities of our size that bring in uses like this, that for every dollar that's spent in this particular area, there's 4 additional dollars that those families are spending throughout the community in other areas. So there's that benefit to those other commercial users or owners within the city. More importantly, as we look throughout our community, we see aging streets, we see congested intersections, we see the need for our capital improvement fund to grow. That only happens when our property tax values and our sales tax revenue increase. The amount of money that will be captured off of this, I think, is wonderfully shown in the one chart that Mike demonstrated, just on property tax alone. But our capital improvement program would have additional funding so that intersections such as Eglin Street and East North Street, an intersection right now that we know has too much daily traffic, that getting through that is cumbersome and not as safe as it should be. In order for us to come up with the funding, we have to pull it in from our capital improvement program fund. Having this revenue that's generated throughout the community by uses like this allows us then to make these improvements in a more timely manner, as well as our aging infrastructure. How many times in a week do we get that PSA that says another water main or sewer main is broken? And that's got to be paid for out of that capital improvement plan. So truly, when we're looking at this, it's not just capturing the property tax increment, but once constructed, it's the growth of our sales tax dollars that really help go towards making public improvements in Rapid City.
All right, so the item on the floor is a resolution to create the district. I'm going to just chime in. I apologize, Alicia. I made this brief comment the first time this came through. I think the city council needs to weigh in on something of this size. This is where elected officials need to make the final decision. Today, I'm going to be supporting the creation of the district, but I'm going to be voting against the project plan just because I believe that the city portion of the costs should be repaid ahead of the economic development grant. The $46 million of economic development grant is a huge number, and it will be determined whether it can pay back by the speed and size of development in this district. The city's not in charge of the speed and size of development. The private developer is. And I don't think it's too much to ask as the city, as we review these, if we're not in charge of the speed and the size of the development in a district, that infrastructure that will be put in first gets paid back first. And so I would suggest to the council that they consider, and the private developer's hard costs should be considered in this fashion too. Take the land acquisition costs, the grading costs on the developer side, the $14 to $17 million of capital costs, divide that up, have that be paid by the increment first, then have the $46 million grant be paid by the increment. That's my suggestion, but again, just an explanation of my coming vote. Alicia? Oh, lost you.
Thank you. And thank you for your description of thinking about voting yes for the creation of the district, but no for the project. I have some sort of similar concerns, but I guess not to repeat them. Not totally formalized thoughts, but sort of thinking about the benefit to the community and wondering, thinking about audience members that have talked about the benefit to North Rapid and people don't feel like they've been engaged. So there seems like a bit of a dichotomy of being part of the community, but I'm kind of wondering the decision only to have market rate and high-end housing, if this part of Rapid City and North Rapid, it doesn't necessarily, I don't know what the needs are there, but I think there is a documented need for market rate and below. So just kind of questioning some of our decisions of not thinking more through inner Rapid City, inner Northern Rapid City. We declined the affordable housing for seniors, which would be a smaller project, urban infill, wouldn't have that big tax revenue or property tax benefits to the city. So I understand that big picture the city could benefit, and maybe all of its residents could, but kind of wondering more about some of those decisions of the project plan, and think it's good to expand, but also to focus, this isn't directly about this project, but us focusing on existing infrastructure and thinking about what is already existing in North Rapid, and wondering how we can benefit existing residents in a more pinpointed way than just saying overall it's going to bring revenue to the city. So just sort of some thoughts about our planning commission and how we're, just thinking through decisions and neighborhood context. And I don't know if the applicant can speak to the choices around just the market rate and high-end housing. I don't know if we need to talk about that with the creation of the district, but something that I'm interested in.
All right. Anything else from the commission? Possibly a motion on the creation of a district? Karen? Okay.
I'll second it.
Haven made the motion to approve a resolution to create the tax increment district for the Rapid City Destination District. And Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to create the district? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That takes us to item 11, which would be the approval of the project plan. Vicki?
It is, and Mr. Chair, I really appreciate the comment you gave a little bit ago about this is very important, and it will have a long-lasting impact on this community for years and years to come. And taking the position that moving this forward to council so that the elected officials can make that final decision is supported by staff. Thank you.
All right. Item number 11, creation of the plan. Is there a discussion on that or a motion? Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've had enough discussion on what was going to be in the project plan. And so I'm going to make a motion to approve the project plan as submitted with our agenda.
All right. Is there a second to Karen's motion?
I'll second.
All right, Vince has the second on that. Any discussion on the motion? Haven?
Just going to say, I'm going to support the motion and in large part because I think this is a decision that the city council needs to make, and this will move it on to them.
All right, anything else on the motion to approve the project plan for the destination district? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Me? Alicia? Were you? 3 no's. So Eric Heikus, Eric Braun, and Alicia Ginsburg were no. But the motion to approve carries. All right, item number 12.
The last application that we'll review this morning is submitted by the City of Rapid City, known as the Rapid City Catalyst District. So the public benefits, and if I may, I do want to address in the public input that's come about has been greatly appreciated by city staff, and especially myself who deal with TIFs daily and questions. But it gives me an opportunity to address those concerns of the community, and they are greatly appreciated, and they are heard, and they are discussed by city staff. One I do want to talk about that was just recently brought up in public comment is the requested amount of this district. So as you remember, when we originally approved just the district, there was no project plan. We didn't talk about costs associated with that. We talked about the potential estimated cost of that sports complex facility being at $55 million. The intent was never to have the TIF fully fund the complete cost to build that sports complex, only a portion of that complex. So in the district itself, we had discussed, once again, no real other components outside that sports complex. To be a part of that, we didn't discuss any project costs identified, with the understanding that once those are identified, we bring the project plan before the Planning Commission to identify those total costs to be included within that district boundary at a later date. So that was a great comment. I just wanted to address that. So the public benefits of this district is of that estimated cost to construct the indoor field house, $15 million of the requested amount will go towards the construction. So to keep this so that it's not reliant on property taxes, the other sources of funding for this is the hotel industry has brought forward the second hotel bid, which would cover almost half of the cost, not only for the construction, but the ongoing yearly money it just takes the operational expenses go forward. There has been support for the whole industry. They would like to see this project move forward. So the TIF would be a source of funding. The City Finance Department is working with a party that handles new market tax credits. According to this representative, there is interest in these new market tax credits, so that would be a source from outside members that receive these, that are awarded these. There's going to be naming rights and sponsorships. There'll be a source of funding, and then the council had approved the $5 million for the city vision funds that go towards this project. Another, as I spoke in detail on the destination district project, there is a component of this of the infrastructure that's needed out in this area to help not only these two developments, but also future developments on parcels that are currently undeveloped that need this infrastructure in place to move forward. And with that, there was actually at the Planning Commission that discussed, I believe it was the Marshall Heights TIF. There was two individuals that came and spoke because of these developments that are going to be taking part in North Rapid City. They came forward and said, one individual said they're making $15 million with improvements to their property in North Rapid, and another individual spoke they're making $1 million with improvements to their property. So these developments being out there spurring interest from not only gaining value from inside these TIF district boundaries, but those particular individuals that came and spoke are outside of any of these TIF boundaries, that these are spurring that development. So there's a public benefit to that as well. And so there is a potential, another large private development that potentially could happen. So this is kind of, and I will get into this as far as a different cash flow structured in 3 different phases. So phase 1 would be the sports complex and infrastructure. But if this other private development proceeds, there is an additional hefty price tag for some public infrastructure to support not only that project, but future projects. But we'll get into that here shortly. So the phase 1 details. So the total phase capital costs for the phase 1 of this is just over $24 million. So what that's composed of is $15 million of this would go towards the construction of the indoor sports facility. We identified those other sources of funding to get to that approximately $55 million that is needed to construct as it's proposed, the components of it today. So there is a heavy lift on the public infrastructure as well, that utilities and the construction of 143rd from Mall Drive to Seeger Drive needs to be put in place. It benefits the sports complex and the destination district. Then also 2 traffic signals to help with the traffic flow, one at the Mall Drive and 143rd, and then one at 143rd and Seeger. So that would be the phase 1. That's if this was to go forward. We know that this phase is going to happen. A big component of this too, as I'm sure everybody's heard, and we've talked about it before in the previous presentation, the Black Hills Energy power plant. So as we'll look at when we get to the boundary slide, that power plant facility is included in the boundary. And I just want to say thank you, and it was a great help to me. The Black Hills Energy, Daniel and I, our Director Ainsley and I have met with them. It's not easy to calculate the increment of a power plant facility. It's not a commercial building which you can predict. It is not. I've worked with the Department of Revenue and Black Hills Energy, and they were more than happy to supply us the information we needed to calculate that increment, that we know that increment that's going to be generated from this power plant facility will be adequate to help pay a large portion of repaying for the phase 1 capital costs that are identified here. Phase 2, that's triggered if this large development comes in, and I'll get to where this public infrastructure. To support that private development, there needs to be a water distribution pipeline put in that gets water. The capacity is there. It's just getting it out to Deadwood Avenue. And it's not only benefits that project, that is something that's needed for that Deadwood Avenue area for current development, and it would really help with future development. So having the opportunity of having this potential private development a part of this district to help pay for the cost of something, a public benefit that is needed. One quick change is part of the phase 2 had $5 million of funding available to partially fund a new elementary school in North Rapid City. A recent development with that has been taken out of this request. The school board had contacted the city and said that elementary school isn't a part of their 5-year plan. So it wouldn't be, and as we know by state statute, that the construction would have to be within that first 5 years, and it's just not feasible at this time. So that has been pulled out of this phase 2 request. So phase 2 would only be for this distribution pipeline. Phase 3, and once again, this would be if this is approved by Planning Commission, the project plan, and City Council, this would be triggered. These improvements, this is why the district comes to downtown Rapid City. These would be parts of the downtown improvements. One important project, and there was a study, I believe, in 2020, this downtown kind of walkway for bicyclists and pedestrians, getting across, from the monument area across 6th Street, just out here in front of, as you've seen that intersection there, that's kind of a tougher way to get across for pedestrians walking and bike. There was a study done I have a brief diagram that I'll show you, but that would be and they would have to be in conjunction, I believe, with the Department of Transportation on that. So this isn't a guaranteed. We still have to go through the process because they are responsible for improvements to Omaha. But this is a project that has been identified in the past, working with Department of Revenue, and this would now have a funding source to make those safety and just quality of downtown, of accessibility for pedestrians and bicyclists to get across Omaha to downtown from the monument safely. So there's also a previous study in the past, just wasn't the vision funds available, of a Rapid Creek recreational corridor enhancement of the entertainment of downtown Rapid City. Then also a component for Roosevelt Park enhancements. I think it's been long wanted in the community to cover that pool. This would provide funding to cover that pool so it is open year-round, not only for local residents, but also for tournaments and swim meets as well. So that's a new employment opportunity, sales tax, tourism opportunity, and benefits to locals where that pool is open year-round now. And then lastly, proposed to be part of this, and this just right out, and I got a picture of our front door. There was a study done a handful of years ago about improvements to 413 6th Street that could be a component to add underneath downtown parking that would help, alleviate kind of parking concerns. There's a retail component of refurbishing this building into a retail center. There was also a component of that study to turn it into more downtown living, residential composition, adding another story to that building. There was also part of that as a potential having a year-round atrium as part of that project of hall, just to kind of enhance, the opportunities of downtown Rapid. These components of this third phase that would trigger with that large development in the public improvements that you'd be happy with that would be reviewed and subject by City Council. So this would be a placeholder for those projects if approved by Planning Commission, City Council, but the implementation of these would come back as the plan is more formulated and put together, would come back. So the total project cost, so removing the school request out of there and removing that interest allocation earmarked for that as well, puts this project just over $123 million. So this is the district boundaries. The district boundary, now it did need to be changed, but it did change with the addition of next to, I believe this is Vicky Powers Park. This would have been the school district parcel, would have been put in here. So it was increased. I think it was 3 parcels were added. It's not needed. They're undeveloped parcels. The park is not value there. The school district, there's no value there, so it doesn't add to the base value. So the reasoning for the district boundary, once again, this is the sports center right here. So that needs to be included. And by state statute, the boundary needs to be contiguous. So it needs to connect. So over here is the Black Hills Energy Power Plant. That's need to be within the boundary to capture that increment for the phase 1 improvements that would happen over in this area. So to keep it continuous, and when this is put together, to keep the value, the high value parcels, I mean, there's Fleet Farm, there's a lot of high value properties. To keep it continuous, those were all left out so that those are still on the tax rolls 100% for the school, city, and county. It's just keeping undeveloped parcels throughout this. So to keep it continuous to downtown Rapid City for the improvements, you need to come down through here. This is all undeveloped. I don't think there's a lot of opportunity for that to be developed because of the terrain issues through there. Then it gets to downtown Rapid City, which is Roosevelt Park areas need to be included. In through here is city-owned properties. This is all floodway, with difficult to be developed without the use of TIF for those recreational enhancements. And then down here would include City Hall, which has no tax value, and getting to that 413 property. The district boundary is large in size. We just talked about it's mostly undeveloped properties in there, a little over 1,800 acres. The estimated base value of this district is just over $40 million. It's anticipated to be classified as economic development. So this district, as we talked about, will create employment opportunities, enhance the valuations of the properties within the boundaries and the community as a whole, and new employment opportunities, new sales tax revenue opportunities, and it'll extend tourism season with the improvements to not only to the sports complex, but to the Roosevelt Park area. So these are the improved projects that are proposed projects to be part of this. So once again, the sports complex in 143rd, the traffic signaling that needs to be, and the utility improvements that need to be put in place, not only for this district, but for the destination district. So this will come out, the proposed elementary school, that will come out. That was, the boundaries were extended to accommodate that. Here's the distribution pipeline. This is something that the community needs. There's an avenue now to have this paid for through increment. This boundary included here, so the city will have some costs involved in this. That's not a part of this. This is county, and by state statute, I'm sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. By statute, this cannot be, county property cannot be included in a city TIF, but as we saw previous this year, by resolution by the city council, the county can have a TIF boundary in city limits, but it can't be the other way around. So that has to be left out, so that will be a cost by the city. So once again, we saw this slide, how the infrastructure improvements for the Catalyst District and the Destination District kind of intertwine together, because it's a heavy lift when you put all the costs of that public infrastructure combined. The projected increment, so this is projected to, if all three phases are triggered, to bring in approximately 160 million in increment in revenue. The net impact on taxing entities. So this is another slide that it shows the benefit to the area. Once again, the base valuation's frozen, so that $40 million, those property taxes collected are still distributed to all the taxing entities. Anything on top of it, the city and county do have to wait until the district is dissolved. The school benefit here is just like the, it enhanced significantly, just like the destination district. So we're looking at the proposed, with all the improvements put in place, an additional revenue stream on property taxes to the school district of $10 to $12 million annually. So this breaks it down into phases, these next three slides. So this is phase one. This is only, we're relying on the increment from the power plant generation facility and the potential increment from development. There's that portion of Long Mall Drive that's on the sports complex lot. So this shows with those two revenue or those increment sources, this district will take 20 years to develop. So let's just say that large development comes in, then we got to add in that distribution pipeline cost. So this is just phase 1 and 2. It's the sports complex, the water distribution pipeline, and the infrastructure costs needed for the sports complex and destination district. This would show the district just using phase 1 and phase 2, the increment coming in, pay off in 10 years. So this is phase 1, 2, and 3, putting all three of these, let's just say all these projects that are identified in this project plan go through. So this is anticipated to pay off in 8 years, or 18 years, I apologize. So one thing I do want to notice, when I put these together, I did super conservative. It's showing that no development will happen on that southern piece of the sports complex parcel until year 5, and then it takes 5 years to fully develop. So the true increment value is not fully captured until year 10, going through to the life of the TIF. I didn't start the Black Hills Energy increment, I think, until year 3, year 4. And so that's conservative. So we're missing out on probably about 3 to 4 million of revenue. This is ultra conservative about the timing of all these projects coming together. So this is a very conservative approach. It's anticipated to pay back years quicker, but this is just making a lot of conservative assumptions on the repayment of these different phases. So the economic impact of the indoor field house. So this is a study done as part of by an outside party. So kind of the important, this shows all of the economic, this is outside of, the next slide will show the field house itself. This just shows to the community benefit each year, as the construction and the phase and, more tournaments come to town. But the kind of the important slide here, this just shows years 1 through 5. And this is And this is based upon the study of other field houses throughout the country of what the average person spends, when they come downtown or they come to the community and use this, of the outside benefits, not just the sports complex, but how the outside community benefits from these projects. So this is the additional income outside of the direct from the field house itself that's anticipated to come back into the community. This is the field house itself. So I think how these are projectually are done across the country is they're not a big revenue itself. As you can see, it's going to take until year 5 for it to stabilize. More tournaments come into town. So this would be so it pays for itself. And that's what I think a lot of these are designed to do, is pay for themselves. So there's no burden on the city to supplement. We talk a lot about the tourism benefit and the sales tax, which is great. But the sports complex, there's a lot of local benefit for this as well. The tournaments are the weekends. There's the weekdays where there's a lot of local benefit. The youth, adults, anybody of all ages can use this. So this not only benefits as far as the property tax, the sales taxes, which are great with these districts, but it's also benefits the local residents as well. So this is the proposed indoor sports facility site. So Pete Lean and Sons is donating just under 23 acres for the sports complex to be built upon, which is greatly appreciated because there will be an appraisal, but the anticipated appraised value of this land is going to be close to $6 million. So that's a huge savings for the city in order to have, and especially this amount of land, because it's the sports complex, I think, takes approximately 4 acres in land size, but that gives future room for growth and to allow for ample parking. So this is a slide we saw. So once again, 143rd. So to your left would be the destination district. To your right would be the sports complex. This is downtown, the 413 6th Street project that I previously talked about. There was a study in place of how this building can be repurposed. This is just right out the front doors here. This is just taken from the 6th Street corridor study that was done approximately 5 years ago of what the components or how this would kind of look as far as getting from the monument area across Omaha and stretching in to Memorial Park and downtown. So this is a big safety benefit, pedestrians and bicyclists getting to and from across Omaha. We've seen this slide. So with this, the city is the applicant, and I will stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Remaining speaker request forms, D'Amico Rodriguez, if you'd like to talk about this one. And we'll go to Scott Acarius after that.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. My name is D'Amico Rodriguez, and I'm with the Rapid City Sports Commission. One of the things that I want to just make sure that we clear up are some of the misconceptions or misunderstandings about these two proposed TIFs, particularly the Catalyst District. We support both TIF districts simply because the synergy between the two pieces, I know it was mentioned previously. Again, winter months, tourism can still be a thing here. Again, with the indoor component of Liberty Land and an indoor sports complex, those users will absolutely frequent both of those. And I understand that TIFs are a target for property tax relief, but I also know that our state has limited resources and tools to assist development. Regarding the Catalyst District TIF, the district has been drawn for future potential development, but what we know right now is the Black Hills Energy Development is going to assist with the development of the sports complex and infrastructure. Phases 2 and 3 are only dependent on future development of the district, and the now $123 million number we are hearing is not guaranteed. The Black Hills Energy Development has already begun with the groundbreaking last week, so we do know that that increment financing is going to be available right away. The boundaries of the project plan of the Catalyst District is setting Rapid City up for future opportunities and will not completely fund some of the project outlined in the plan, but will address needs. roads, infrastructure, quality of life amenities. And I know Stacy's here with the swim team. That project did receive Vision Fund last time, but due to the expense of that structure and enclosing the pool, now we have an opportunity to again enclose a project that was done incorrectly many years ago and creating a revenue generator year-round with the swim center. Also, addressing one of the most dangerous but vital intersections in Rapid City at 6th and Omaha. There was not a project plan presented during the first approval process of this district. No cost numbers were identified, and at the time to be included in the project plan. The $55 million number that has been thrown around is the estimated cost of the sports complex to construct. $15 million is identified in the proposed project plan for partial funding of the sports complex. There is a potential for a large industrial user that may construct within the Catalyst District boundaries. If this happens, that will trigger phases 2 and 3. There is also included in phase 2 is partial funding for a new elementary school, which obviously has been removed. And then if the large industrial user does not construct within the TIF boundaries, phase 1 is the only one that would be constructed. Just making those clear for everybody.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez. Sorry, you hit your 3 minutes. Thank you for your comments. Scott Acarius, and I hope I got the pronunciation correct.
No, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I came here to learn something. I've learned a lot, but the part that I'm most interested in is not the phase 1 part. And that I think a lot of people can say, you know, we all support youth sports. A field house would be great. The part that I'm particularly interested in is phase 2, and I'm a little hesitant to know I understand the comments of some of the speakers that have said that phase 2 and 3 won't happen if phase 1 doesn't. And I mean, Elbridge Gary would be proud of your plan. It looks like a Rorschach test. It looks like a gerrymandered district to go all the way around the city and throughout. I mean, he'd be proud if he were alive 200 years later. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm very interested in the data center, the $400 million, what we'd call significant industrial client. And I know nobody wants to call it that, but if you look at the power plant and the synergy, for lack of a better term, that is between the power plant and the data center. We talked about a data center early on Hani's project that hasn't happened. This is a data center. You can ask the question of the council people, and they can't talk about it because they've signed non-disclosure agreements. And yet here we are throwing that into this plan that may actually have a lot of bearing on this community and really requires a lot of input. And I can't get any input on that because people won't talk about it. They say, well, it'll happen in 2 years. It's not a data center. It's a data center until you tell me otherwise. And perhaps many of you have already signed non-disclosure agreements as well, and I'm frankly surprised that that is actually a thing. I was in public service for 6 years. I've never signed an NDA. Other people currently in government, they don't sign NDAs, but we have for this project. So that's where my frustration comes in. And so I guess my question to the group at some point would be, if this can be done in a piecemeal manner, so that it's well understood that we will not proceed to another phase without an adequate discussion, which can't be had now because of the NDAs, so that we can stop at some point and say, let's have a community discussion about a data center. Let's have a community discussion about the needs of it, the impacts, and so forth. And notwithstanding the fact we have a really good option with the field house and sports complex, but can that be done? And that's my concern, because we need to have adequate discussion about a matter of that importance, which really should be the lead on this. When you have a $400 million client, that's the lead. For the media people here, the lead's been buried.
All right, Mr. Karras, appreciate it. Rod Pettigrew?
Thank you, Chairman and Commission. I'm wearing 3 hats, so maybe I can get a little extra time up here. Hopefully, I'm the last one. I'm up here on a personal reason. I'm a citizen of Rapid City. I'm a businessman in town. I got concerns, and I'm also the current president of the City Council. I appreciate, Scott, your comments. I'll address those first. We have not signed an NDA. You can talk to me about anything. I have not signed anything.
Other people have.
That could be, but I have not. And Mr. Akaris's comments, it is a data center. Everyone's so secret about it. I got more calls on this. People I don't know, and they said, is it a data center? Everyone in town knows it's a data center, so we don't have to hide that anymore. I think people should know that, and it should be an open discussion. On a personal level, I'm concerned about the water use for all of this project. You saw in the journal, our aquifer is getting less. Yeah, they're going to put a pipeline in, but that's going to happen after we're all dead. So I am concerned about the water use. Per John Roberts' comments earlier, there's a lot of confusion. The mayor's office has done a terrible job in rolling this out. From day one, from the first time it came through, the council was in the black. We knew nothing. Joel and his partner Pete met with me in their facility. They thought this council was informed on everything. We knew nothing. Same thing happened here. Monday night's council meeting, one of the speakers mentioned that this $132 million price tag, we knew nothing about it. I went home Monday night, did some research. I got up Tuesday morning at 4 o'clock, started emailing council people. We knew nothing about it. We're in the black. And that's poor communications from our city staff. We need to know, because we're making the decision. From a business point of view, if all this happens, it's $250 million worth of TIFs. $250 million. That's unheard of. I got calls yesterday from people in Sioux Falls laughing at Rapid City. What are we doing, folks? This is not responsible business. And I wish Mike would take his tool and draw in my address, 1203 St. Cloud, because my driveway needs to be replaced, and you're doing all this other stuff. I want a free driveway. I mean, this is ridiculous what we're doing. From a council's point of view.
I'm sorry, Rod, we've hit the 3
thank
minutes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, though. All right, Vince, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question, what with the recent merger of Northwestern Energy and Black Hills Energy, is that going to make a difference? Okay. They're willing to go forward with the plan, yeah. And just to be clear, I have never signed an NDA either, so. And as far, and I don't want to get this confused, because one of the things that the city has done is they have, and I got 3 pages here of questions and answerings and what's our TIFs. So, you know, I know the councilman wants to get his driveway repaired, but that's not how you go about getting a TIF. And we are very careful as to which ones we approve and don't approve. I mean, it's a bigger picture. It's not just about one issue. There's all of this to concern. As far as that goes, the legislature has a plan, or excuse me, there was at least one local legislature that tried to improve our water by tapping into the Missouri. That hasn't been approved yet either. So, I mean, we do have concerns. Those concerns are being met, and they're not just our concerns, but they have to be a statewide concern. Thank you.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to keep this to 3 minutes as well. So I'm a little stronger on support of this one. I'm very much in support of the Sports Commission and the Sports Center. I saw this come through vision, and the more I see it, the more I get excited about it. I do really appreciate Lean and what they're doing with giving and support and the altruistic kind of donation of land, that sort of thing. I'm also in receipt of a letter from Visit Rapid City, formerly Destination Rapid City, signed by Allie Fermanic, and she makes some great points about support for this as well. I'm in concurrence with her letter. I'm also excited about this data center. I'm a big fan of Snøhetta. It's a Scandinavian architecture firm. They're doing some really progressive work, and the one I'm reading about right now is called Spark, and it is a visionary center. It's not located in South Dakota, but they're doing some brilliant things with creating energy and making this data center sort of the core of a community, and not so much a detriment. So I'm excited for the direction this could be taking. So this one is going to have my support. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so hopefully we can clear up a little information, as far as I'm aware, no city staff has signed an NDA as well. And so we are open and available to discuss anything we know, which is why we brought that forward. And that's why we explained a significant industrial client. We don't know who it is, and we don't know if it's necessary or if it's going to happen. What our job was, though, was to explain that at this point, if it were to go in, we would need to extend some water utilities there. And so that's what phase 2 is. And then phase 3 is a list of a few projects that have been discussed by various different city committees. The downtown ones have been discussed by previous planning commissions, as well as the sustainability committee, I believe, was the one that brought forward the project on 6th Street. And then vision committees have talked about the improvements to Rapid Creek as well as Roosevelt Pool. And so this was an opportunity for us to combine them all as potential, and I want to make sure that is very clear. This is all potential, which is why it's being brought forward now. We do not know if it's going to happen. There's going to be separate approval processes for whatever industrial client might end up being there. That's going to go through its own process. That is not what the TIF is about. However, it would be capturing the availability that if something were to be built, there could be some additional public infrastructure that could be constructed that has been discussed by the community in various different forms for quite some time. So we're just trying to bring forward opportunities for infrastructure to potentially be developed if and when further development occurs on Deadwood Avenue.
Thanks, Daniel. With no other lights up, I'll put my 2 cents in. I'm going to take a similar tact on this one. I'm going to vote to create the district, but against the project plan. My issue with the project plan is phase 3. The sports facility I can't be more in support of. We need indoor recreation here. We need, frankly, to compete with the other communities in the upper Midwest. Casper just built an enormous one of these, and the promises made on the number of teams showing up for tournaments is real. I'm not a sports parent, but I don't have my head in the sand. There are a lot of sports parents at every school that my kids have been to. And it's just through my own kids' interests that we haven't been on the road weekend after weekend. And to have a chance to stay here on a weekend as a sports parent would be awesome. To have a chance to get different teams coming to compete here would be awesome. And to have hotel rooms filled in December would also be awesome. So phase 1, totally in support of. I don't understand, though, why I'm against the project plan, why we're not doing this as overlapping TIF. We don't have any information on the significant industrial data center client. We also, I mean, the phase 3 projects, chances are would be in support of them all, but it's hard to drill down on each of those and say, okay, is this really something that we should be funding with a city-backed TIF. And I feel like we're confusing the issue of the indoor rec center, which me personally, there's no doubt on that one. And then just as a final note, phase 3, the city acquiring private property to then be redeveloped through a TIF, that just doesn't feel right. I don't think the city has a good enough set of rules regarding acquisition of private property and then the sale of city-owned property. We've been through a couple of these recently in the last few years downtown. Both were done very differently, and to my knowledge, there's no set standard for disposing of city-owned property. That's just a sort of a cautionary bent, and that's all I have. So.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, Vince made the motion to approve the tax increment financing district for the Rapid City Catalyst District. Is there a second? That's Eric Heikus, second that motion. Discussion on the motion. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also am going to support the creation because I think we need to get this forward. But there are some things that in the project plan that I'm also concerned about. But I think if it went through and we did everything, it's like this is very convoluted. It's got so many parts in there, and it's hard to decide what's good and what's bad. But I think all the projects are good. It's just, is this the right avenue to use it for? I guess that's kind of my question, you know. But I do support the creation.
All right, any other comments on the motion to approve creation of the TID district or the tax increment district? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13 is the approval or resolution to adopt the project plan. Discussion on the project plan? A motion, maybe?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Vince made the motion to approve the adoption of the project plan for the Rapid City Catalyst District. Second. Eric Heikus seconded that motion. Karen, discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess for me, the phase two wouldn't be a bad idea because you're doing some infrastructure, and that's all right. It's that phase 3 portion that I think Eric mentioned too. I know we've talked about the corridor thing to go across on 6th Street to Promenade. And that's been discussed for so long, and it's still an issue. I mean, I don't know how I think if we knew what we were doing and knew a plan, that would go forward one way or another, but it's hard to, engineering-wise, to get it across and statewide for the road, and how high do you have to go, how low do you have to go? I mean, there's so many variables, and I just don't know if that's ever going to work. Now, the idea of the swim center and adding that cover, I think that's a great idea. I'd also like to see the swim center attached to the hockey rink, which is also a plan, and but that's there's so many things that we could use that money for, but I am concerned about how that phase 3 would ever play out if we do have the funding for it, and that would be I'm sure a city council decision if we approved the plan. So, thank you.
Vince, discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and just to add on to what Karen was talking about, because we revisited that 6th Street crossing across Omaha again, whether it's going to be under or it's going to be over, and we were counting on, and I believe because it was a state road, the last thing we heard was that we had to verify with the state whether or not that could even be done either way. Was there any development on that?
Vicki?
The state has noted that it's not if that crossing should go away, but when that crossing goes away. So there's some acknowledgement that they need to work with us, and I think their preference going forward is that the pedestrians would be elevated and the vehicular traffic would be lowered.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you, Vicki.
All right, any other comments on the motion to approve or motion to adopt the project plan for the Catalyst District? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Can we, so 6-3, Arwello, Ginsburg, and Braun on the no. All right. That takes us to the end of the regular agenda today. Any staff items, discussion items?
No, sir, just to acknowledge, I think this is probably our second or third longest planning commission meeting ever. Thank all of you for sticking through all of this to hear the long presentations, and for the audience members sticking it out too so that their voices could be heard.
I echo that 100%. Vince?
Again, I want to thank the staff in particular, and I don't want to revisit any of the items that we discussed, but when we talk about how we treat our people and the culture, getting back to the Sunridge item, when you talk about under $1,000 for somebody to pay for rent, that's a biggie. When we're talking somebody over that is a part of our senior community, that location provides access to the park, access to museum, access to entertainment at Monument. And I mean walking distance to the park. There's even a grocery store to the north of that that would have benefited the people in that area more and more. But just thank you for even bringing it to us, making it a part of our thought of what we need to do for our city and especially for our seniors. Thank you.
All right, anything else from the commission? Okay, Gallagher made the motion. There were a lot of seconds, but I'm giving it to Karen. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye. I almost said no.
I got a lot more to say, guys. We're going to stay here through lunch.
Next step is right after the Rushmore Mall. Oh, yeah. And he said, that area then east of the mall, which would include